no big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City, and not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw, learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade, sipping motions and lemonade. Cool heads will prevail, kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. Is a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack Sack Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Meshegas. Ridiculous that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Proset, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes are sweet and sassy. And not just a YouTube show. When you know. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
Good morning. Good morning, my friends. It's not really morning anymore. It's almost 11 a.m. here on the East Coast, and the Canton Leaf Blower Society has decided to convene outside my window, so you might not be able to hear me so well. We're going to give it a go, and hopefully they're going to move away from my window soon. How's everybody doing today? The jury's out on their view today. They're on their little field trip. And so I heard they're on their way back, and some interesting things could be happening today in court. How's everybody? Something really crazy happened yesterday. Not a lot of mainstream media has been reporting on the perhaps alleged perjurious incident that Carrie Roberts may have perjured herself in front of a state grand jury. And a lot of people out there on the cesspool of Twitter don't seem to think that it's really that big of a deal because she misunderstood the question. But do you think she misunderstood? Yes, that's exactly what I was going to show you. I love this for her. Check it out. You know who did report on it? TMZ. Here's their headline. Witness fesses up to bogus grand jury claim. Wow, that's one place you don't want your face to be. It's on TMZ. Here's their article from, when was this, from yesterday? Today is the 20th. Today is, right, we have to say for posterity, today is Friday, April 25th, 2025, and we're waiting for the jury to come back from their field trip. So let's take a look at the headline yesterday on TMZ. Karen Reed retrial witness fesses up to bogus grand jury claim. Shocking moment in the Karen Reed retrial with her defense team getting one of the prosecution's key witnesses to admit a major part of her testimony to the grand jury that indicted Reed wasn't true at all. The bombshell admission happened Wednesday in court when Carrie Roberts was getting cross-examined by Reed's legal team. Roberts, a close friend of late Boston police officer John O'Keefe, admitted she did not hear Reed ask Jennifer McCabe to search Google about hypothermia on the morning the three women found O'Keefe dead in the snow. Video from the trial shows Roberts getting grilled on the stand, and the exchange is intense. Roberts previously told a grand jury that she heard Reed ask Ms. McCabe to do a web search for hypothermia and dying in the cold. But now Roberts admits, I did not hear her ask that. Reed's defense claims cops in Massachusetts are framing her for her boyfriend O'Keefe's 2022 death. O'Keefe was found dead in the front yard of a friend's house after a night of intense drinking among the group. Prosecutors allege Reed intentionally struck and killed him with her SUV before leaving the scene. They're calling it the biggest case since OJ. Harvey Levin is very pro Karen Reed. which is interesting because I've seen some TMZ coverage on this case, and he's pro Karen Reed. Roberts told Reed's attorneys Wednesday she did not intentionally lie to the grand jury, but only misinterpreted a question. Reed is being tried again after her first trial ended in a mistrial. And here's another article, which is pretty nice, about Karen. Karen Reed slays in killer look as retrial for Boston cop boyfriend's murder begins. So they did like her outfit. I liked her outfit. Was that? That was on the 22nd. So follow TMZ if you're looking for some pro Karen Reed coverage, because there's not a whole hell of a lot of it out there. Not a whole hell of a lot of it out there. But TMZ seems to be a friendly. She does dress well for court, doesn't she? She does. The fan is up. The jury's not back yet. Also, today, hang on one second. Today is Janet Reed's, Karen's mom's 75th birthday. For those of you who are on the Facebook page, I'm not sure which Facebook page it is, Kelly made a really nice video. Kelly Reed made a really nice video for Janet for her birthday, but here I can only show you a picture because the video has a Beatles song attached to it, In My Life, which is one of my favorite songs. And I can't play it because they'll strike me. The Beatles don't like that. So here's a picture of Janet Reed in her younger days. And today she is 75. So happy birthday, Mrs. Reed. I say that if anybody can or wants to, wouldn't it be such a nice thing if people would donate $7.50 to Karen Reed's Defense Fund in honor of Janet Reed's birthday? That would be a nice thing to do. The link to the Defense Fund is in the show notes. And if you would care to donate $7.50 for Janet Reed's birthday today, that would be amazing. I can't, it's kind of sad to me that she's got to spend her 75th birthday in court for the second trial of her daughter, who did not hit and kill Officer John O'Keefe with her car. It's wild, right? She does. She looks so much like her mom. I will, I'll pin the link to the Defense Fund in the chat for now. Right now, I have the link to the merch shop in there because it's 20% off for the next couple of days in the merch shop. So if you are so interested, take advantage of the 20% off. Make sure you click the coupon at the top of the page, the landing page that you get to. Karen Reed Defense Fund. Okay, I feel like we got such a late day today. The Defense Fund is up to $889,714. Any and all donations. The link to the merch, did it disappear? I see it on mine. I see it on my phone. The link to the merch is also in the show notes. Hang on. All right, so now I am going to pin the Defense Fund in the chat if anybody would like to donate $7.50 in honor of Janet Reed's 75th birthday. What a gorgeous picture, huh? Oh my God, I love that. It's such a like a 70s like model vibe to her, right? Like a Jane Birkin, or love it. Even like 60s with the scarf and the whole look. She's a cool chick. She's a lovely woman. Nicest lady ever. She always has mints for everyone in court. She's always passing out mints. Never turned down a mint. Never turned down a mint. So hopefully you can see it now that it's been pinned. Happy birthday, Janet. We love you. We're praying for you and your family every single day. Every single day that we watch this Shonda Michigas fakakta nonsense of a trial. that is going on for the second time in the upside down, inside out world of Narnia. We're in the land of the lost. We are in the land of the lost. Hi, Ed. Ed wants to know, Mel, when Karen and John were texting, was John at work or did he work that day? No, I think he was off that day. He was off that day. I saw, Ed, when I went back and watched the chat yesterday, I saw you ask a couple of times whether he was on duty. No, he was not. He was off that day. It was a Friday. And he was not working. As far as I know, if anybody in the chat can tell me, I don't believe he was at work that day at all because he had been home all day. He had to take the kids to the doctor and stuff like that. Yeah, and people were saying, yeah, because he had said, I just got sober an hour ago. I was at 5:20. So he just got sober at 4:20, which is kind of appropriate, right? 4:20 and all. They did have a little bit of court this morning, so maybe we can roll that while we're waiting for them to come back, unless you guys have any super duper questions, comments, and concerns that you want to talk about while we wait. Because it seems like we're always waiting. I always thought that lawyers should be called waiters because all you do is wait all day, all the time. There's some footage also of Karen walking into court this morning. And I was flipping around while I was getting ready to come on here and checking out who else is doing live coverage. And I'm not going to mention any names, but I saw a streamer, a law tuber, actually, someone who I don't know personally. It's like a co-stream. They're streaming on 2 different channels and literally listened to like at least a half an hour infomercial for this guy's book. Okay. I was like, what did I just tune into? Oh, is it? Oh, good. If it's not loading, it's probably because you guys are killing it. You guys are killing it. Can I play the video without sound? Maybe I can. Maybe I can. Let me try that because every time I try and put it up with sound, sometimes the sound doesn't play anyway. So if you let me know that you can't hear the sound, it's just like a little like 1 minute video of it's like a collage of videos from their younger days and from when Karen was little and stuff. So yeah, let's do that. Let me see if I can play it without sound. Hold on. So just tell me that you can't hear the sound because I'm telling you, there's nothing worse than being on camera for 8 or 9 hours or however long we're going to be here today and having your stream get completely stricken because of a music situation. So I think if I play it this way, the sound is not going to come up because this has happened to me before. So let me just see if I can get it on here. Is there anything worse than the sound of leaf blowers in your head, like all day long? No, I don't think there are. I don't think there is. Why does this not come up? Oh, no, I don't want to open it with a quick. Oh, but if I do with the QuickTime Player, maybe it won't come up. Hang on. I need a team, you guys. I need a team. I need a whole team of people to help me. Like I need back office. All right. Well, no, I just disappeared. Okay. All right. Here I am. Sheesh, that took long enough. All right. Just make sure that. Tell me that you can't. Tell me if you can hear it. Yes or no. I hate leaf blowers so much too. I think they should be outlawed. Like it'll be in my head all freaking day long. No sound, right? Because I could hear the sound. I want to make sure that you can't hear sound. No sound. Okay, ready? Here we go. This is no sound on purpose. Imagine the Beatles in my life playing. Ready? Places I remember all my life have changed ever, not for better. Some remain. And then some are dead and some are living. My life, I love them all. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Wasn't that awesome? Beautiful family. Nobody should have to go through this, including the O'Keefes. The O'Keefes should not have to go through this either, because if a proper investigation was done for their son, the proper person or people would be on trial, but it wasn't done. It wasn't done. And you should be horrified. You should be horrified. I don't know why their fan is not on right now. Like it's not spinning. All right. Well, let's take a little listen. Or let's watch them walk into the courthouse. Because check out the outfits and all. Can you hear the leaf blowers? I think gas-powered leaf blowers should be, in my opinion, outlawed. Come on, we can send people to the moon. We can send Katy Perry to the moon or wherever the hell they went in that rocket ship. Can we not invent a leaf blower that's quiet? Is that not a thing? Really? All right, this is from this morning. And guess who's in court this morning, or who was anyway? Margaret, our favorite court clerk. Margaret's there instead of Jim. And once you hear Margaret, I think you're gonna like her better. Don't tell Jim, but I like Margaret better. And I'm that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. This is from earlier this morning before they went on The View. Okay. Margaret's a love. Here you go.
For the record, before the court is Cromwell versus Karen Reed, 22 CR 117. The parties are present. Our 18 jurors are present. The matter is on for trial.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Good morning again, counsel. Good morning again, Ms. Reed. Good morning, jurors. When we leave you out there, we're very much aware that we're leaving you in another room waiting, but we were working this morning to help streamline things, and we were successful, so we do appreciate your patience. I do have to ask you those questions. Were you all able to follow the instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we left yesterday? Yes. Everyone nodded affirmatively or said yes. Were you also able to follow the instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation into this case? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did any of you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since we left yesterday? No. Thank you. Everyone said no. All right, folks, as you know, this morning we are going on a view. And a view is simply, we're going to a place that you've heard about and that you will continue to hear about during the course of the trial. The purpose of the view is to help you better understand the evidence, which you'll hear during the course of the trial, and to help you appreciate the location and its surroundings. So the view that we're going on is part of the case, and it means that the observations that you make there can be used and considered by you in your witness.
You're on the call. We'll call Dr. Gary Fowler to the stand.
Thank you.
Court just went live, so we're flipping over to live court. I was showing you what happened this morning, and I didn't hear who the first witness is, so here we go. This is now live. She's all set. We're just a couple seconds behind. Don't worry.
Court is back in session. You may be seated.
Who is your next witness?
You're on the call. We'll call Dr. Gary Fowler to the stand.
Thank you.
It's Dr. Gary Fowler, and that sounds like Lally. Lally's back. Back again. Lally's back. I never thought I'd say that I miss Lally. And I kind of miss Lally. Lally's back. Lally flop, ooh, lally flop, lally flop.
You
Ooh,
solemnly
lally,
swear
lally
that the
flop,
testimony you
lally
give
flop.
before the court and the jury in the matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
Sure.
Please spell your name, doctor, because I don't remember how to spell it.
Good morning, doctor.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury, spelling your last name for the court?
My name is Dr. Gary Fowler, F as in Frank, A-L-L-E-R.
And what is your occupation?
I am a physician pathologist.
And where do you work?
I work currently at Signature Healthcare in Brockton.
And how long have you worked at Signature and in what capacity, sir?
Signature, I started, it's probably 6 months. I took a new job 6 months ago. I've been, I am the chief of pathology and the laboratory medical director at Signature.
And where did you work prior to your work at Signature about 6 months ago?
Prior to that, I was at Good Samaritan Medical Center in the same capacity.
And how long did you work at Good Samaritan for?
Since 2015, late 2015.
And did you work in any capacity similar to that prior to working at Good Samaritan?
Prior to Good Samaritan, I worked at the Kearney Hospital, which is in Dorchester. Started that job in 1996. So I stayed on staff at Kearney Hospital up until actually closed 6 months ago. So I've been on staff at Kearney's for quite a long time.
Where did you go to school and what degrees did you receive?
I went to college at Tufts University in Medford, graduated in '87. From there, I went to Tufts Medical School and graduated in 1991.
And following your graduation, where did you go from there?
After medical school, I did a residency at Tufts Medical Center in 1991 to 1996.
And then where did you go following your residency?
And right from residency, my first job was at Kearney Hospital, which I previously mentioned, so 1996.
And doctor, are you board certified?
I am board certified in anatomic pathology and clinical pathology.
And what is a board certification?
Board certification is something we need to show that we are actually qualified to perform the job that we need to do, both in anatomic and clinical pathology. It's a written exam that we take and we need to pass to demonstrate that we're competent and know what we're doing.
First, in just general terms, if you could explain to the jury, what is pathology?
Pathology is, well, there are two basic branches of pathology: anatomic pathology and clinical pathology. Anatomic pathology is basically, an anatomic pathologist is a physician or MD or a DO trained to make diagnoses on patients via looking at tissue biopsies, organs, tissue fluids, and we're also trained in autopsy pathology as well. So basically, an anatomic pathologist, we look at tissues via glass slides. Slides are made, and we every day make the diagnosis of, somebody has a cancer or somebody doesn't have a cancer, benign. Look at colon polyps, breast biopsies, pretty much anything that comes out of the operating room or a physician's office, any sort of biopsy. Clinical pathology, on the other hand, is basically a clinical pathologist is a physician, an MD or a DO, who specializes in the clinical lab, which basically is any fluid specimen, including blood specimens. When you go to the hospital and you have your blood test and it gets sent to the lab, the clinical pathologist is ultimately responsible for the quality of your lab tests and quality, and basically that's it.
And so the time that you worked at Good Samaritan, did that cover the date of January 29th, 2022?
Yes.
And again, what was your title and what was your job at Good Samaritan in the month of January 2022?
I was the chief of pathology at the time and laboratory medical director.
What did you do as the laboratory medical director?
Laboratory medical director, basically, the laboratory medical director is responsible for the ultimate quality of any, either whether it's a biopsy, somebody's biopsy, or lab result. The laboratory medical director has to make sure that the final result is of excellent quality. So there are many different things that we need to make sure that things that are in place, as far as need to make sure we have the correct amount of workers. You want to have enough workers. You want to make sure they're competent. So as many, there are policies for competency for all the lab techs and phlebotomists and even pathologists. So basically the laboratory medical director, if something goes wrong, it's ultimately his or her fault.
And the lab at Good Samaritan, is that lab accredited?
Yes, it is.
And by what body?
We are accredited, or Good Samaritan is accredited by the, we call it the CAP. It's a College of American Pathologists. They are considered the preeminent accrediting body for hospitals. They've been around for probably 70 plus years or so.
What is accreditation? What does that mean?
Accreditation is basically something that says that your laboratory is following guidelines and providing excellent quality. To be accredited with the CAP, every 2 years we have a laboratory inspection. They don't tell you when they're coming. They will give you a 3-month window, and they'll come and inspect you to make sure we have a good quality lab. Each section of the lab, pathology, the clinical lab, microbiology, chemistry, hematology, the CAP has a checklist with numerous requirements that one needs to fulfill. There are probably over 3,000 items that they look at.
And was your laboratory at Good Samaritan, was the accreditation up to date on January 29th, 2022?
We were accredited, still are.
Now, in Good Samaritan Medical Center, when a blood test is ordered, what types of things is the lab testing for?
I think the most common tests that are performed when you go and you have your blood tests is one is chemistry, a chemistry test where we sodium, potassium, chloride, glucose. We also, a common test is a CBC, or a complete blood count, where we look at your red blood cells and your white blood cells and your platelets. Those are the two most common tests.
And why is blood testing ordered in the course of medical treatment at a hospital?
When you're admitted to the hospital, usually you're sick, so the physician is usually a standard, ordering chemistry and CBC to see if there are any clues in those tests that could help the doctor take care of you. If they look at a BUN and creatinine, maybe if they're elevated, you either could be dehydrated or have renal failure. If you look at liver function tests, maybe there's something wrong with your liver. So it's just a general, a good look at the patients to see if there are any clues that could help them.
And as far as the blood testing results are concerned, how does that assist either a doctor or a clinician in treatment and diagnosis?
Basically, what I just said. If there's nothing, if the results are normal, that sometimes helps too. Rules things out if they're normal. If they do a CBC and look at the hemoglobin and it's low and patient's anemic, maybe the patient might need a transfusion. So there are many different case scenarios where the results can help the provider, the clinician.
Now, with reference to alcohol, does the Good Samaritan Medical Center, do they also test alcohol within the blood?
Yes, we do.
And why would that assist medical treatment and diagnosis?
Listen up, because he's an important witness, because he's going to tell you that the blood that they draw in the hospital is not to be used for legal purposes. And this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to use her ETOH level from her CBC and extrapolate it back. And they don't even know when she had her last drink. And all of this is nonsense. And I can't believe they're letting it in. But this is why he's here. And the last time he testified during the first trial, he said that, yeah, no, you're not supposed to use this for legal purposes. That's not why we do this. This is not, if they do a blood draw for purposes of drunk driving, the MSP is supposed to send someone to the hospital, correct me if I'm wrong, to do a proper blood draw for legal purposes. They didn't do that here.
Diagnosis.
I think if it,
Just take it back to Lally's last question. Is Brennan even in the courtroom today? Love that Lally's back. Lally's back. Back again. Tell a friend. Everybody should be tweeting this out. I don't tweet, but tell everybody Lally's back. He's better than ever.
yes, we do.
And why would that assist medical treatment and diagnosis?
I think if a physician is wanting to know if somebody's been drinking or has alcohol on board, or maybe not, maybe that patient has ingested maybe drugs of abuse. So they'll test for alcohol to see, one, if it's positive, and if it is, then it helps confirm that the patient has been drinking.
Drugs of abuse. Alcohol on board has entered the chat. Alcohol on board, all aboard, alcohol on board. So really, they're just testing to see if a person's been drinking. They're not testing for specific blood alcohol content levels. Ed Wallace, I need you to email me so that you can come on one day, because I see you flying by in chat. And anytime you want to come on, you have an open invitation. So please do. Email me, text me.
Now, are there any policies and protocols at Good Samaritan Medical Center with reference to how blood is taken and how blood is tested?
Yes, we have numerous policies. We have one policy specifically for phlebotomists. Those are laboratory technicians who draw the blood. So we have a policy for them to explain exactly what they need to do. And also in the laboratory, we have numerous policies basically for any tests that we provide. And so we have a policy for alcohol testing as well.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
See, Ed Wallace, I learned from the best. This is not a forensic lab, he says.
Before you,
You're correct, Mel. Law enforcement does the blood draw and brings the blood to the forensic lab for blood alcohol level analysis or BAC analysis.
just ask you to review those generally and look up when you're finished.
Shay Benet says Brennan's there today.
And do you recognize what those are, sir?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury what is contained within each of those two sets of documents?
Okay. The first one is a patient preparation for specimen collection. This is the policy that I was mentioning, specifically designed for our phlebotomist to detail the procedure of the blood draw. Basically goes through one of the most important parts of the process is correct patient identification, where we need to correctly identify the patient. We have the patient state his or her first and last name and state it out loud to make sure it matches which the patient that we're trying to draw. And then we also match up the bracelet to the medical record number the patient's bracelet. So one of the most important things is correct patient identification. The rest of this policy goes on and just pretty much details what to do next, including finding the veins, cleaning the site. It has some information on if there are any complications. So it's basically the entire process of the blood draw. The second one is our alcohol policy, which pretty much details in detail what goes on behind the scenes for an alcohol blood test in our hospital.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, Commonwealth, proceed to introduce in the minutes the next two exhibits.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor, for the record, it would be the patient preparation for specimen collection, the next exhibit in line.
All right. Exhibit 35.
And the ETOH policy would be the next exhibit number 37.
Lally's got his groove back. I kind of like it. I'm not going to lie.
Now, doctor, what types of precautions are in place at Good Samaritan with respect specifically to alcohol testing in the blood? Or I should say taking the blood sample from the patient.
Yes, one of the major things we need to do with
He does. He's got his
blood,
he's got his
for
baby shark hairdo today. Check it out, you guys. Look. Oh, my free skim is already on point. Remember when your kids were little and they had shampoo on and they were in the bathtub and you would make them a little baby shark fin on top of their head? Well, Lally, we call him Baby Shark because he's got the same hairdo. And I don't know what the product is, hairdo or hair don't. I'm not quite sure. But if you are not looking at your screen and you're not driving, come back and look. It's Baby Shark.
alcohol.
Oh, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Sorry, but not sorry. You're going to enjoy.
Is to obviously not use an alcohol swab. Normally, when you have your blood test, they cleanse the area with a swab that contains alcohol. So in our policy is a specific statement that says, do not use alcohol swab because potentially when you're drawing the blood, if you suck up some of that residual alcohol, you could cause a false positive. So we have in our policy, and every hospital should have the same policy where we use a swab, a swab that has no alcohol. We call them a moist towelette. That's what we refer them to.
Moist towelette has entered the chat.
Also in the emergency.
Moist towelette has entered the chat. Did anybody have that on their bingo card? Moist is one of those words that I think should be banned from the planet. We'll talk about others later, but moist, not a fan.
Emergency room, my supervisor pretty much removed probably 95% of all the alcohol swabs. So just in case a phlebotomist forgets to not use an alcohol swab, they are hard to find. We need to keep a few there because we need to use alcohol wipes on certain tests like a.
They're hard to find. Did you just say that they're hard to find? Hold on.
So
And that's why they couldn't use them because they're hard to find in a hospital. Hold on a second.
in case a phlebotomist forgets of all the alcohol swabs. Also in the emergency room, my supervisor pretty much removed probably 95% of all the alcohol swabs. So just in case a phlebotomist forgets to not use an alcohol swab, they are hard to find. We need to keep a few there because we need to use alcohols.
Oh, they're hard to find because he doesn't want anybody to make a mistake and use the alcohol swab. I think that's what he's saying. Thank you.
Types on certain tests like blood cultures and stuff like that. So
when were the alcohol swabs removed from the emergency department?
it was before my time.
So fair to
no
say
change.
prior to January 29th, 2022?
Correct.
What is a phlebotomist and what do they do?
So phlebotomist is a healthcare professional who specializes in drawing blood. So they're the ones who are trained, competent, and know what to do when they draw a patient's blood.
What kind of training do phlebotomists receive at Good Samaritan?
We try to hire phlebotomists who have been trained. It's just easier. So they can have a high school background, but if we train on site, they just need to be trained on the proper protocol, proper procedures, and demonstrate competency.
Is there any sort of proficiency testing related to phlebotomists at Good Samaritan?
There's no proficiency testing for phlebotomists, but there's competency assessments. So with phlebotomists or any laboratory technician or even pathologists, there are strict guidelines for competency. We have to always make sure people know what they're doing, and it's a CLIA or a federal government regulation or requirement. So when anybody first starts in a hospital, the requirements are, one, initial training. You can't let anybody come in on their own, without not knowing what they're doing. So we have to document that they have the initial training and they're competent. And then the law says 6 months from that, we do another competency assessment where we look at 6 elements of competency defined by CLIA, and 6 months from that, 1 year from the start date, is another competency. And then after that, it's annual thereafter. And that goes for phlebotomists, and that goes for any laboratory technician.
Doctor, once the blood is drawn by the phlebotomist, what happens then?
So the phlebotomist will draw it at the time. They need to have the specimens labeled in the patient's room, because you don't want the phlebotomist to mislabel. So everything gets labeled at the patient's bedside with an initialed and with the phlebotomist's initial and date and time. That blood test will then be sent to the lab. In this case, the blood was drawn in the emergency room, so it gets packaged into a plastic bag and sent in a pneumatic tube up to the laboratory.
And once it's sent to the laboratory, what happens with the sample from there?
Once we receive it, it's called receiving the specimen. There will be a technician who then goes into the computer, enters the phlebotomist's name from the tube into the computer system, enters the time, and the technologist will look and see what was ordered, and then do the appropriate next step based on what was ordered.
And in a case in which alcohol is one of the items that are ordered, what is the next step as far as the testing goes?
So the next step with alcohol testing, we use a specific tube, so the phlebotomist would know what tube to use. It would be a light green tube that has lithium heparin in it. It's an anticoagulant. We don't want the blood to clot, so that's why we use an anticoagulant. So the first step when testing for alcohol is that the test is designed to be performed on serum or plasma. And to get that, the next step would be to centrifuge the blood. The centrifuge is a machine that spins the blood rapidly. We spin it at around 3,300 RPMs, which is pretty fast, rotations per minute. And the reason why we spin it, because centrifugation will allow it to separate the blood components based on the density. So heavier stuff like the red blood cells will go to the bottom, and the lighter stuff like the watery component of the blood will go to the top, and some of the white cells go into the middle. But for alcohol testing, we are targeting the top part of the blood component, which would be plasma.
And then once it goes through the centrifuge process, what happens then?
So once it's centrifuged, we have the separation of the blood components. We have the plasma ready to be tested. So that technologist will walk the specimen over, it's probably 10 feet from there, and put it onto our Roche Cobas machine. That's our machine that performs our chemistries as well as alcohol testing. It goes onto a machine. All the testing is basically inside of a black box. And the label present on the blood tube will dictate what the Roche machine will test. So based on the barcode label, once it's on our machine, it knows what test to do, and it will perform an alcohol test.
And Doctor, for our stenographer, do you know how to spell that Roche Cobas machine that you were just referencing?
So R-O-C-H-E, Roche, and Cobas, C-O-B-A-S.
Thank you, sir. May I approach, Ron?
Yes.
Doctor, showing you another series of documents again, if you can just look at that and look up when you're finished.
Thank you, Chastity Danielle, for gifting a membership. I
Do
appreciate
you recognize those records, sir?
Yes.
And what do you recognize those to be?
These are the medical records of Karen Reed.
And sir, is there an indication within those records as far as the date of treatment for Ms. Reed?
Yes, there's a bunch of dates in here.
As far as the treatment is concerned, sir?
Yes.
And what is the date of treatment?
Oh. 1/9/22.
No. Nope.
Sorry, is that
Try again.
29/22?
Try again. He can barely see. You want this guy drawing your blood? You want this guy? How can he find a vein? Look at his face is right on top of the paper and he can't read it. Oh, for the love of the traveling Mary, really?
Mid date, it says 1/29/22.
You want this guy? Does he draw blood too, or does he just put it in the centrifuge? Because now I'm a little
Doctor,
bit
if I
frightened.
could direct your attention further into the document to a previously tabbed portion, do you see any indication in there as far as a result for alcohol testing?
Well, he uses his glasses obviously for distance, but he does not have readers, and he's got the page literally 4 inches from his face. It's like the woman with the Coke bottle glasses from My Cousin Vinny, who was an eyewitness.
Yes, I do.
But didn't have her glasses on.
And with respect to that result, have you reviewed these records prior to today?
Yes, I did.
And if you could explain to the jury sort of the timeline from this blood sample as far as, let's start with first when it was ordered.
So when it was ordered, it was 9:03 in the morning.
And when was it
Okay.
taken, sir?
The blood test was taken 5 minutes later, so 9:08.
And then what happened, or what is the next time that something of any significance happened with it?
5 minutes from that, 9:13, we received it, and 9:53 in the morning, the result was entered into the computer. So it was ordered at 9:03, and I believe it was 9:53. The results were in the computer.
Okay, so the blood draw was at 9:08 a.m. And they don't know when Karen's last drink was, right? But let's say it was when she left the waterfall, or at some point before that. It could have been 11:30 p.m. It could have been 11 p.m. How accurate we're talking about more than 9 hours later, her blood was drawn. She could have drank a bottle of vodka when she got back to One Meadows. We don't know. But they want to try and think that, this is going to be some sort of evidence in this case. It's insane.
And may I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm welcome to seek to introduce and admit as the next exhibit.
Any objection, Ms. Little? No objection. All right, thank you. Exhibit 37.
Saddle up, Vicky Sue. Says, wow, Melanie's chat fans are the best. Are you new here? Because they are. It's the snark tank. It's real. The comedy competition in the snark tank is crazy. We have to laugh or we're just going to cry every day. So we try to keep each other laughing.
Doctor,
Welcome.
what was the result of the testing for alcohol in the defendant's blood when it was taken shortly after 9 a.m. on January 29th?
93 milligrams per deciliter.
Thanks. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay.
All right. This will be crossed by Ms. Little. No relation.
Good afternoon, Dr. Fowler.
Oh, good afternoon.
The Good Samaritan lab is a clinical lab, not a forensic lab. Is that right?
Correct.
And hospitals are not in the legal business of calculating an individual's blood alcohol concentration. Is that right?
I would say
Dude.
99.9% of the time we are not in the legal business. We are
Oh, okay.
testing alcohol for the diagnosis of alcohol intoxication. But occasionally a case may come, very rare, to a hospital and it ends up being a legal case.
It's not what he said last
It's
time.
not common. I think uncommon.
And you'd agree that there are differences between screening tests that are conducted at hospitals and forensic tests that are conducted by law enforcement, right?
Yes,
The purpose of testing in a clinical setting is to assist in the diagnosis and treatment of a patient, right?
correct.
And physicians need to analyze blood quickly. They need to get the results so they can see what's in a patient's system and then effectively and efficiently treat that patient, right?
Correct.
Whereas in a forensic setting, tests for blood alcohol concentration are designed to produce results that are reliable and credible for use in court. Correct?
Correct.
You testified earlier today that your lab
Oops. Okay. Am I too loud? Do I need to lower my mic? Because sometimes it's only one person who has a problem with the sound. And sometimes it's everyone who has a problem with the sound. So I know, Casey, you put it in there twice. I see you. I see you. I can, everyone says I'm perfect. So if it's on your end, it depends on what device you're listening from. It depends on whether you have earbuds. It depends on lots of things. Maybe refresh your browser. Thank you.
is accredited by CAP, which is the College of American Pathologists. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes, I do.
But CAP is a clinical laboratory accreditation, not a forensic accreditation, right?
We don't have the forensic accreditation for Good Samaritan.
Bam, there it is.
In fact, Good Samaritan has never been investigated or accredited by any forensic accreditation team to ensure that you perform all of your tests with the integrity necessary to support results in court, right?
We've never had the forensic accreditation, but we have very good quality lab results, which I could go into.
No, we're not asking you
further.
that. That's not on the table.
But you've never been accredited by a forensic accreditation team,
No,
right?
no,
And the lab at Good Samaritan has never been accredited by the ANSI, which is the National Accreditation Board known as ANAB. Are you familiar with that organization?
no,
Are you aware that ANAB is the forensic accreditation body that in the United States that ensures that laboratories' procedures meet the minimum standards necessary to ensure results are reliable and credible for use in court?
Sustained.
Now, the most reliable method of forensic ethanol testing is called headspace gas chromatography, or HSGC. Are you familiar with that process?
yes,
And HSGC is the method that's used by forensic labs to test for blood alcohol content, right?
Correct.
And that's because forensic tests require the testing of whole blood for the presence of alcohol, right?
Correct.
Can you briefly, just for the jury, describe sort of the difference between a whole blood test and a serum test?
Sure. So whole blood, to put it simply, when you have your blood drawn, you see the fluid coming out, all red. That's whole blood. We don't do anything to it. We don't spin it down. We don't centrifuge it. That is whole blood. That is the specimen of choice for forensic blood ethanol testing. Hospitals, on the other hand, our methodology, which is just as good as the forensic headspace gas chromatography, is based on looking at the serum or the plasma. So we don't, that's what when I explained that we need to centrifuge it, take the liquid portion off the top. So in the hospital, we test it on the serum or the plasma. Now, did you ask me the difference? You want me to go into the difference?
That's enough, doctor. Thank you. I'll ask some additional questions to kind of clarify. And in a forensic lab, they actually require the testing of whole blood, correct?
Correct.
And HSGC directly measures ethanol in the blood.
Correct.
And this method is designed to be accurate and reliable for forensic purposes for use in legal proceedings, correct?
Correct.
But the testing in this case was performed using the hospital's clinical chemistry machine instead of a forensically defensible method like HSGC, right?
Correct.
Forensically defensible has
And that
entered the
clinical
chat.
chemistry machine performs what you just testified to, a serum test, right?
Serum or plasma.
Serum or plasma. And hospitals use serum or plasma testing because it's actually quicker and more efficient than HSGC, right?
Yes, it's less labor intensive. It's easy to automate, but at the same time, very, very good and very accurate.
But serum testing does not actually measure alcohol directly. It instead measures the presence of what's called NADH, right? Yes, I'll repeat that. That was my fault.
No, it
Serum
wasn't your
testing
fault.
does not actually measure alcohol directly. Instead, it measures the presence of NADH. Is that right?
Almost.
Well, NADH is a byproduct of alcohol, right?
Correct. I can go into the testing how methodology that we use to explain it if you want me to.
Methodology.
Well, serum testing measures the presence of NADH, correct?
It measures the rate of change of NADH production, so it doesn't actually look at just NADH, and it measures the rate of production, and I can go into more detail on that. Alcohol testing in the lab is correct.
I'll ask you some additional
Okay,
questions
sure.
about NADH and we'll
Sure.
get there.
Yeah.
So you can do this now, but let the doctor answer his question fully next question, okay? And the following questions.
Doctor, the higher the NADH in a patient's system, the higher the serum test result, correct?
That may not be correct, no. It's the rate of change of NADH production based on our methodology. I can go into that. So
No, she's not asking you to go into
Our test
that.
system is a little bit different than the forensic
talker.
testing system.
Dr.
But
Fowler's
it's
a talker.
also very good and very accurate, and almost when we compare our methodology to the headspace, we get the exact same results, and when we compare and with peer laboratory comparisons. But what we do is and I think the jury needs to know this, maybe some of you might understand the chemistry behind
It
it.
is not up to you to tell the jury what they need to understand, and Ms. Little needs to get better control of this witness and have him STFU. Okay? They're not accredited. That's it. This serum or plasma results is not the same thing that is used by the MSP to prosecute someone on drunk driving. It's just not. Do not let him ramble on. Please get control of him.
But
It's
well,
not
you
for him to
might
decide what the
understand
jury
that
needs to know.
Jury needs to know this. Maybe some of you might understand the chemistry behind it. But we do, we take the patient's sample, and it's based on, we add, because when there's alcohol in the specimen, we add actually in the test system.
Is the judge the one allowing him to go on?
It's
Because
the same enzyme that's in the patient's body. In addition, we add a surplus of NAD to it. NAD is similar to NADH. They get converted back and forth. So when we put it on our test system, it's alcohol dehydrogenase is in there. And what happens is when there's alcohol, it combines with NAD that we add to it. It creates NADH.
I'm in the twilight zone, inside out, upside down, Hunger Games.
There's a spectrophotometer, which can monitor the rate of
I don't even remember the
NADH
question at this
production
point.
over baseline. And we use, there's a something that measures, a photometer that measures the NADH production. It looks at light and there's physics and looks at 340 nanometers. And it's pretty accurate. It will monitor, it will tell you, it will tell the system how much NADH is produced, and that amount is directly proportional to the alcohol in the patient's sample. So it's a very, very accurate test, but there are some limitations.
Okay. For those of you who are just joining, this is the defense attorney cross-examining this witness. She asked him a simple question and he started going off on, but I think the jury needs to know this. She tried to shut him down. The judge wouldn't have it. I guess she doesn't want to try to shut him down again. But he can't be a hostile witness when he's on cross. A hostile witness is only when you call a witness on direct and then they won't answer your questions and then you ask for them to be declared hostile so that you can cross-examine them essentially. But I mean, my head's going to pop off.
Go into.
So wait for another question.
Okay.
Oh, now you're going to shut him down. Thanks,
Yes,
Judge.
so serum testing can be subject to errors, right? And there are limitations.
There are some limitations that I can explain, just like headspace gas chromatography may have some limitations too.
My headspace.
But I need
to get in a better
Next
headspace.
What are some of the limitations of the serum testing?
Okay. So the serum test, as with many tests in the laboratory, different things can interfere with our laboratory tests. And the three most common ones, which are unlikely to affect ethanol testing, is we abbreviated HIL. We want to look at those three things. One is hemolysis, which is H, and the other one is icterus, which is high bilirubin, and the third is L for lipids. High lipids will interfere with alcohol testing or with any testing based on that same methodology.
Okay. I'm going to interrupt to say she needs to ask him yes and no questions. This is so far beyond anything that anybody needs to know or cares or wants to know about. We need to get tighter control of the questioning here. It needs to be a yes or no question. I don't know if this is a strategy to let him go on and say things that are going to hurt him. He's a pathologist.
The Rose-Kobash machine and all the machines out in the market today are very sophisticated. If we have elevated levels of any H or I or L, it will flag it and raise the potential for a problem. The next thing on the list is that our alcohol testing is not absolutely specific for ethanol. There are two possible other alcohols that can cross-react. One is propanol and butanol. but then it goes clinical
Propanol?
history. Did the patient ingest those 2 alcohols? And third is there's some unusual
Can't allow this anymore. I can't
hematologic
allow it.
malignancies like
Stop this train. I'm leaving.
macroglobulinemia that can interfere. So it's always have to correlate with the clinical situation. The next one, sometimes there can be patients who make endogenous make
is
their own
going on
alcohol. So
here?
very rarely, some patients may truly have a positive
Is he
result.
teaching a
That could
class
be
in
from our test or
phlebotomy?
Headspace. They make their own, so we have to rule that out. It's a rare condition. And the
Is
next
Liza
one
afraid to
is,
ask the judge to tell him to shut the F
one that's in the
you?
literature, which is
I
LDH
can't
and
with
lactic
this.
acid. If
No,
if
he's
a patient
teaching
has
a class on
markedly
phlebotomy.
elevated
Well,
LDH,
I don't even remember the question anymore.
or lactic acid, those one is an enzyme, and the other one is an acid. That can cause false positives. Now,
If I could stop you there, doctor, I think
Oh.
those were the 4 that you identified, the 4 limitations: the lactic acid, the hemat.
Yeah,
If I could just
Go
ask
ahead
you
and
a
ask
few
your
more-
next question.
If I could ask you a few more questions about LDH and lactic acid.
sure.
You're aware, Dr. Fowler, of the medical literature establishing that the presence of LDH and lactic acid can lead to falsely elevated serum readings, correct?
Correct.
And that's because lactic acid or LDH actually forms NADH.
Lactic acid, I'll have to go into a little bit of chemistry.
No, we don't
Lactic
need a
acid
chemistry lesson
and
on top of it.
LDH, lactate dehydrogenase, they both act on each other. And LDH and lactic
the thing.
acid needs NAD.
I don't know, and no disrespect to Ms. Little, no respect, disrespect. I don't know if she knows enough about the science behind this and the medicine to be even able to digest what he's saying. I don't know if this should have been a lessee's witness. I don't know what the hell is going on here, except I'm in an upside down situation. We don't need a chemistry lesson.
NAD plus to break it down. So in theory, when you're testing a serum, a plasma for blood alcohol, if there's extra LDH or high levels of LDH, high levels of lactic acid, you add it to the test system, and then Roche throws in, or Siemens throws in the NAD, it will form NADH.
Seaman has entered.
That
Seaman has entered don't type it in the chat, but Seaman has entered the closed captions. He meant Siemens, I think, like the company. Wasn't it a Siemens executive that died tragically in a helicopter accident last week in the Hudson River? But I digress. Somebody send Liza a lifeboat, a raft, something.
That was first documented, I think, back in the older versions of these ethanol testings back in the 1990s, when they stumbled on, they were looking for biomarkers or reasons in kids with SIDS, little babies, and they found that two of these babies had a positive
Semen
alcohol.
and little babies.
But
Doctor, if I could just ask the next question, if that's okay.
Sorry.
So in other words, NADH, studies have found, can actually be formed by certain biomechanical processes other than the presence of alcohol, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Are you aware that the National Institute of Health has found that liver diseases, kidney diseases, muscle injury, trauma, and even anemia are some of the health conditions that can lead to a rise in serum LDH levels?
Yes.
Are you aware that Ms. Reed was severely anemic in January of 2022?
Sustained.
Are you aware that the medical literature has also found that patients suffering from multiple sclerosis have a 2-fold increase in NADH levels as compared to controls?
I'm going to allow that.
I haven't read anything specifically related to the NADH level, but But I want to go back to the point where our laboratory, our
No,
testing is
no,
not based.
I'm not,
it's
I'm
Question,
not
Let
telling
him,
you to.
let him finish his answer.
No, he's
it's
not
the
allowed
rate
to
of
go back
change of
to
it.
a point. He's not allowed to finish. This judge is so far over her skis on this. Okay, she is the gatekeeper. She's got a lot of wide latitude, wide latitude. She's the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper of the gates to hell. No, you don't let him finish his question when his question goes off on a tangent into Never Never Land. Under her eye. Yes, thank you, Ryder. Under her eye. It's on my thumbnail. Are the commanders going to come walking in at any minute and just take control of this courtroom? And wrangle up everybody and head them on over to Jezebel's for some lunchtime entertainment? What are we doing here? Listen to what he says, and listen to her say, let him finish his answer. But I need to go into something else and tell you about babies back in the 1700s.
to controls.
I'm going to allow that.
NADH suffering from multiple sclerosis have a twofold increase in NADH levels as compared to controls.
I'm going to allow that.
I haven't read anything specifically related to the NADH level, but I want to go back to the point where our laboratory, our testing is not based. It's
question,
not
Dr.
testing.
Let him finish his answer.
No.
It's not. It's the rate of change of NADH.
This-
So if somebody has NADH on board, I believe
board.
it's not going to affect the result. It's the rate of change, and it basically, you know.
I'd be asking
Back
for
to the
sidebar.
anemia,
I'd be marching up to the sidebar. Be like,
read or heard of that.
That was stricken. That was not
Okay.
allowed.
It all goes back to the lactic
that was
acid.
stricken. So she's
and the
going to let him
LDH.
ramble on more.
The NA
I can't believe what I'm watching here. Bettero, I know you're out there, and then out there, is your head popping off? What are we witnessing here? I don't know if even anything that he's saying is even harmful. However, she needs to get control of the witness.
NAD, NADH doesn't matter. So looking at multiple sclerosis patients, they can have elevated LDH and lactic acid, but it's not to the extent that it can interfere with the alcohol levels. There was a study maybe 7-10 years ago.
Your Honor, there's no question pending.
You asked him about a study, if he was aware of the studies.
I asked, and that's a yes or no question. And he's,
All right, Doctor, we're going to hold that there for you and ask the next question.
Doctor, have you reviewed the August 21st, 2013 peer-reviewed article entitled Serum NAD through Disease Course in Multiple Sclerosis, which was sponsored by the Center of Healthy Brain Aging by the University of New South Wales? Which, sure. Doctor, have you reviewed the August 21st, 2013 peer-reviewed article entitled Serum NAD Levels through Disease Course in Multiple Sclerosis, which was sponsored by the Center for Healthy Brain Aging by the School of Psychiatry at the University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia, which specifically found that patients suffering from multiple sclerosis have a twofold increase in NADH levels as compared to controls?
I'll strike the part of what the article held. Is he aware of the article?
No, I'm not, to be honest, no.
He's not aware of that article because that article doesn't help the Commonwealth.
Dr. Fowler, did you consider Ms. Reed's anemia and multiple sclerosis condition when you conducted the alcohol test on January 29, 2022?
No, we don't, no.
And again, serum tests like the ones conducted in this case don't test for ethanol. They only test for NADH, right?
We test for the rate of change of NADH production.
And Doctor, you did a number of other tests on Ms. Reed on January 29, 2022. You tested for additional drugs, not just alcohol, correct?
Correct,
And all of those results were negative.
correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay.
Train wreck. Margie says, yeah, Bev basically told her to STFU and let him cook. Thanks, Morgie.
Doctor, are you aware, I know your lab at Good Samaritan did not do this process, but are you aware through your training and experience of any sort of mathematical conversion that can be done from a serum reading in milligram per deciliter to a blood alcohol concentration of whole blood?
I'm going to allow it. The door was open.
See, all these doors were open.
Yes, I am aware. Yep.
And please describe what you're aware of with reference to that.
Well, with blood alcohol concentrates goes to, when it's in your blood, it goes more to the watery components of your blood. So when I described the process earlier, whole blood is before we spin it. And when we test the plasma, which is specifically testing the watery component. Now, people have done studies like how much percentage of water is a serum versus whole blood. Basically, to put it simple, there's a higher percentage of water in the serum versus whole blood. So a hospital result will always be a little bit higher than a test on whole blood. It can be, I think the ratio, the conversion factor is anywhere from 1.1 to 1.18. So it could be 18% or 11% higher in serum versus whole blood. But we don't do it. That's what I read. I will defer that to the experts.
Well, hell,
Now,
we
Doctor,
thought you were an expert.
referencing in your cross-examination about a study that you were aware of about 10 years ago or so regarding MS and alcohol testing. Is that correct?
It was more on MS, looking at the results of lactic acid and LDH to see how high the levels of lactic acid can go in a group of multiple sclerosis patients. When reviewing that, we found that the range went from some normal range, 16% of the multiple sclerosis patients had normal lactic acids, but the remainder had elevated levels. But those levels were not anywhere near the required levels to produce a false positive. Our package inserts and for the Roche testing system, the Roche has, it's an FDA approved test, and they have to do in-depth, detailed testing before they allow
Roach
any hospital
acid.
to
Anybody
do
ever
a
see
test.
Roach acid? Remember the old blotter paper from, Grateful Dead shows? Anybody ever see Roach acid? Because that's just exactly what the closed caption said. Laura says, why in the world in this case would this blood sample not be sent to a forensic lab? Why in the world? And she said that twice in her super chat. And the reason is that because it was not a drunk driving case. That's why. Proctor didn't determine that until 16 hours later when they decided to pin it on the girl. Do you think if Karen showed up drunk to the scene, screaming, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, do you think they wouldn't have cuffed her right there and done a breathalyzer or whatever they had in their car at the scene? Of course they would have. They didn't. Thank you, Laura, for your super chat. And thank you also to Gabby Hartman for tuning in from Germany. Appreciate you so much.
And they have listed levels of lactic acid beyond which the test would not be reliable. But the results, based on this study of 600 multiple sclerosis patients, 2 big centers in Italy and 1 in the Netherlands, show that the highest level of lactic acid in the MS patients did not achieve, didn't get close.
Who's here from the Netherlands? Raise your hand in the chat.
Asymptomatic can have normal or
the Netherlands
normal levels, and slightly elevated. It was the ones that had more symptoms that had elevated levels up to, I think the highest was 6.5 millimoles per deciliter, which is not high enough to interfere with our result.
Now, with respect to the lab at Good Samaritan Medical Center, the interference that you were speaking about earlier on cross-examination, what would happen if any of those types of interference were to occur during the course of the testing?
No, I'll allow it.
The three main ones, which I detailed earlier, is the hemolysis, icterus, and lipemia. Machines are sophisticated. It will detect it and say, it will flag it and say, please do not result it, or we'll have a disclaimer saying, interpret this result with caution. The results may not be accurate. It hardly happens.
May the results may not be accurate,
alcohol.
and may the odds be ever in your favor. Because yes, we are in the Hunger Games right now. We are. It hardly ever, he's going to say it hardly ever happens with alcohol testing. Hang on. Let's take that back a notch.
Machines are sophisticated. It will detect it and say, it will flag it and say, please do not result it, or we'll have a disclaimer saying, interpret this result with caution. The results may not be accurate. It hardly ever happens with alcohol testing. But if it did,
Hardly ever
we would
happens.
get a result like that, and we probably wouldn't report it.
And
You
from
probably
your
wouldn't
review of the
report it?
defendant's medical records, specifically her testing from January 29th, did you notice any interference or any reports like that in her record?
No.
Now, the testing that you're doing at Good Samaritan is in relation to patients such as that might have cancer or heart disease or something like that, correct?
Correct.
Now, you were talking or started to speak on cross-examination about the good quality lab results that you have from your lab, and you wanted to go into that further. Could you please expound upon that for the jury now?
We have, you mentioned proficiency testing before. So all hospital laboratories accredited by the CAP or have to participate in proficiency testing. What that means is that every 3 times a year, and they give us 5 unknown samples. And we have to test it, report it back to CAP, which also reports back to the government. And we have to basically get the correct answers. And with alcohol testing, it's probably one of the best tests in the laboratory. Always have right on the money results. But at the same time,
Right on the money
we're also
results.
able to look at results of all the other labs that participated in this proficiency testing. So we can look at different methods. We can look at labs that have the same method as us to see how we're doing. And usually with this proficiency testing, we have 3,000 labs across the nation that have the same methodology as us, so we can compare to them.
Methodology.
And also, interestingly, we can see the labs that are using headspace gas chromatography. And out of interest, we can see, how do we compare? And we have pretty exactly the same results on these proficiency testings.
So you're very
We also look at
proficient.
some statistics as well, not going into them, but we can look at some stats like standard deviations and SDs. And actually the hospitals with enzymatic testing have slightly better stats with that compared to Headspace. Pretty close, but a little bit better.
And doctor, from your review of the defendant's medical records and the blood testing in this case, was that done in conformity with the policies and protocols at Good Samaritan?
We have policies in place to be followed, and there's no reason not to think that somebody didn't follow policy.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else, Ms. Little?
No questions.
All right, doctor, you are all set, sir. Thank you.
You're all set, sir. That was a mess. That was a mess. I have no idea what he testified to. I have no idea what the point of that was.
Do you have
That
another witness, Mr. Brennan?
I do.
Okay.
The Commonwealth calls Jason Becker.
Jason Becker. Refresh my recollection. Was he? I can't remember if he's a first responder or if he works in the lab. Everything she was trying to get out of him about the results of the alcohol testing being skewed because she has MS and anemia didn't come out that way. It wasn't clear. The judge let him go on and on and on, and so the doors were opened.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give to the court and the jury in the matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Good afternoon, sir. All right, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Jason Becker.
How old are you?
I am 36 years old.
Do you live in the area?
I do. I live in Canton.
Tell us a little bit about your education.
My education,
Don't they all
high school and college
live in
UMass.
Canton?
And I went to EMT school a little over 10 years ago and paramedic school.
Tell me a little bit about EMT school. How old were you when you started EMT school?
When I started EMT school, roughly 21 years old.
Why did you decide to go to EMT school?
I wanted to save some lives.
Tell us a little bit about EMT school. What did it require?
EMT school was a couple months of classroom stuff, and then you do some ride time on the ambulance. Paramedic school is a little different. It's about a little extended, 2 years worth of training. You're doing hospital, ER time, and ambulance time also.
How long did you serve as an EMT before you went to paramedic school?
I worked as an EMT for approximately 5 years.
Can you estimate how many dozens or hundreds of calls you were on during that time?
Hundreds.
Why did you decide then to go get paramedic training?
I wanted to be on the fire department, and it was a prerequisite.
Did you complete paramedic school successfully?
I did.
Were you still working as an EMT at the time?
I was.
And inevitably, did you seek to have a different job? Did you try to be a firefighter?
I wanted to be a firefighter, correct.
Were you successful in doing that?
I was.
Tell us a little bit about that, sir.
On the Canton Fire Department. So I got on the Canton Fire Department, and they send you to the fire academy, where you train to be a firefighter.
So you had EMT training, paramedic training, and then firefighter training.
That's correct.
On the Canton Police Department, did you serve dual roles as a paramedic and as a firefighter?
Fire department?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
firefighter, sorry.
Yes, sir. Firefighter and as a paramedic.
You served as a firefighter and a paramedic.
Correct.
In the Canton Fire Department, does it have more than one station?
There's two.
Is there one station that's larger or smaller than the other?
Station 1 is the headquarters, which is larger.
Had you ever spent time at Station 1 as a firefighter or a paramedic?
I have. We rotate to both stations.
I want you to take us back to January 29th, 2022. Were you working that evening?
I was.
What station were you assigned to?
Canton Station 2.
Canton Fire Station 2?
Correct.
And that's the smaller of the two stations.
It is.
Were you working with anybody at Fire Station 2 that night?
My ambulance partner at the time was firefighter Dan Whitley.
Was there anybody else who was working at Fire Station 2 in addition to you and Dan Whitley?
Correct. There was an engine company with 3 guys on it.
3 people were assigned to the
The engine, correct.
Were you and Dan Whitley assigned as partners for the day, the week?
Correct. Yes, we were.
Which was it?
Why is he not mentioning Katie McLaughlin or McLaughlin, the girl who went to high school with a girl named Caitlin Albert?
Day or
Curious.
the week, sir?
The week.
So for the entire week, you're partners with a person, and does that rotate on other assignments?
It does. It rotates.
So on this particular week, you were assigned as partners with Dan Whitley.
I was.
What were your roles between the two of you?
Well, at the time, he was my preceptor. I was a new paramedic at the time. So I was more or less the lead tech on all the calls as part of my training. And Dan's been a paramedic for a long time. So he was there to teach me.
So would Dan Whitley be the lead on the call and he would help you?
I would be the lead.
You would be the lead.
Correct.
Did you get a call that early morning hours of January 29, 2022?
We did.
What was the call assigned for?
It was a call for Section 12 psych eval.
Very briefly, can you tell us what a Section 12 is?
Sure, it's a transportation order filled out by police, doctor, basically for us on the ambulance that we have to take the patient whether voluntarily or involuntarily because they're a threat to themselves or someone else.
When you received the call for a Section 12, were you aware that there were other calls that Fire Station 1 had responded to that morning?
We were aware. You can hear the calls going out each station.
Were you or Dan Whitley any part of that earlier call that Fire Station 1 responded to before you got the call for the Section 12?
We were not.
So your efforts were after?
We were after, correct.
After you got the call to respond to a Section 12, did you head towards Fairview Road?
We did.
Tell us a little bit about the trip to Fairview Road.
It was a little extended because of the weather conditions at the time. Snowing heavily, windy, low visibility.
Okay. How long did it take to get from Fire Station 2 to Fairview Road?
Approximately 8 to 10 minutes.
Who drove?
Firefighter Whitley.
Now, on the way to Fairview Road, do you sit in the front of the ambulance?
We do.
Take us to when you arrived to Fairview Road. What do you see?
You see a bunch of police lights. Canton engine 3 was already on scene, so we parked behind them.
Did you have it, without talking about what you spoke about, did you have a chance to speak to anybody at the scene?
We briefly spoke to the Canton police, and they briefed us and sent us to where the defendant was at the time.
Why do you have a conversation with other first responders at the scene before you do anything?
They're making sure the scene is safe to begin with, and they're unseen first, so they have a little more info than what our dispatch would have.
After you had that debriefing with colleagues, were you directed to approach any certain person?
I was.
Where did you go?
I went to the defendant who was sitting in a black SUV type car.
Were there other persons inside the car with the defendant?
From my understanding, there was one person in the driver's seat.
And what seat was the defendant in?
She was in the front passenger seat.
Did you have a chance to speak to her?
I did.
And the person you spoke to who was in the passenger seat of that car, do you see that person in court today?
Oh, yeah, good.
I do.
Point at her.
Could you point out and describe an article of clothing, please?
Miss Reed right there, she's in the blue, navy blue.
How long was your conversation with the defendant while she was still seated inside the vehicle?
Approximately 5 to 8 minutes.
At some point, did you and the defendant move to another location?
We did.
Where did you go?
So we went back in the ambulance.
After having a conversation with her, was she cooperative going back to the ambulance with you?
She was.
And did you ask her to be seated in the ambulance?
I did.
Was she cooperative with that as well?
She was.
After she was seated in the ambulance, did you close the doors and get in?
We did.
When you say we, who was with you?
Me and firefighter Whitley.
So you and firefighter Whitley were in the back of the ambulance with Miss Reed. Who was going to drive the ambulance?
Firefighter Sam Park.
Where did he come from?
He was on the fire engine that was already on scene.
I want to ask you questions now about what you did in the back of the ambulance and some of the conversations that you had. Tell us what your role is once you have a patient in the back of the ambulance. What do you do next?
Each patient's different. Depends on what the call is for. In this specific situation, it was more a psych eval. That's what we're called for. Initial triage questions: is the patient cooperative, uncooperative, combative? I asked her name, her mental status, where she was. I asked her if she was suicidal, and if she was, did she have a plan? Did she want to hurt anyone else? Those are some of the initial triage questions that I would ask.
Why do you ask those questions?
Just to get a kind of a judgment on the patient, reading the patient.
What's your role at that point? Are you an investigator?
I'm not.
Are you in any way law enforcement?
I'm not.
Law
What's
enforcement.
your focus when you're speaking to a patient?
Law.
It's basically hearing them speak in their story. In this specific situation, we didn't know circumstances. We just knew that Miss Reed had found her husband, which she was calling dead on the side of the road. So it was a traumatic call.
On the
So
side of
when
the
you
road.
were there, you knew nothing about what had happened before you got there?
We did not.
And your role had nothing to do with any of that investigation?
We did not.
You were solely focused on caring for the patient?
Correct.
Did you have any other role other than caring for the patient?
Just making sure she got to the hospital safely. She didn't hurt herself.
During those conversations, are you and firefighter Whitley doing the same thing or different things?
Again, it depends on the call. I was the lead tech, so I'm the one documented, giving a report to the nurses, the staff. So I was more kind of getting that information, my initial triage questions, and then just kind of sat and supported Miss Reed. And
Were you writing down information, technical information about status and health on a report?
I was, yes.
While you were doing that, was your colleague speaking to Miss Reed?
He was.
Did you have a chance at times to hear what they were speaking about?
Yeah, and no,
At other times, did you speak directly to Miss Reed?
I have.
Can you describe her demeanor or temperament?
Initially, she was agitated because she didn't feel like she needed to go to the hospital. She said the statement she made, she didn't mean. She just kind of said in jest because of the events that she went through.
In jest? No, I don't think she said in jest.
So she was, but then there'd be periods of which she'd be calm, and then it would fluctuate. She would have
They did.
like pressured speech, repetitive, but all in all, she was cooperative.
At some point, did you have a chance to speak to her directly about her mood?
About her mood,
About her mood.
I don't know if I understand the question.
Okay. Did she say anything to you about her last interaction with what she referred to as her husband?
Sustained.
Did she make any statements to you when you were giving her treatment or speaking to her about her husband?
I'll allow that. It came in.
One of the reasons why she was saying suicidal stuff is because the last conversation she had with her husband at the time was an argument. I didn't feel like it was my role to really find out the details on what was said. But that's what she said to me.
Last conversation was
The
that they had
last
an
thing she
argument.
said to
Yeah,
him was
I
an
see a lot of
argument.
people in the chat who don't understand why he's saying husband. This was also testified to at the last trial as well. She may have called him her husband because there were several EMTs who said that. A lot of people know, especially this was like in a post-COVID type situation, January 2022. Unless you're like immediate family, you weren't allowed to go into the hospital. So she may have, I don't know if she said that or not, but a lot of them reported that she did say that. It may have been a way for her to think that she would be able to see him when they got to the hospital. I don't know. So they did not get married. They are not married. She was his boyfriend, but the same thing happened during the first trial. Both of these same witnesses testified. Everyone that we've seen so far testified at the first trial, except for Mrs. O'Keefe. But a lot of the first responders did say that she referred to John as her husband. And I don't know if she did or not.
Sustained.
Did she tell
Hold on. I want to hear that question again.
What was said. But that's what she said to me.
that the last thing she said to him was an argument?
Yep.
Sustained.
Yeah,
Did she
it's
tell
the same, but he
you
already
what
answered.
the
Thanks, Judge.
argument was about?
She did not.
Inevitably, did you get a chance to bring her to the hospital?
We did.
Did you stay in the back of the ambulance with her?
I did.
Did you continue to have conversations with her?
Yes, I did.
Did you hear conversations or parts of conversations she was having with your colleague?
I had parts.
When you got to the hospital, what happens next?
So we brought Miss Reed into the hospital, registered her, bring her to the psychiatric section. Is it?
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. Jackson?
All right, AJ's turn.
I have just a moment, Your Honor.
We're a little tiny bit behind. I'm going to FF it. If you're ever confused about who's on the stand, I have it scrolling
Good
below for
afternoon,
your
Firefighter
convenience.
Good afternoon.
When you first arrived at the scene, There was at least two Canton police officers there still.
Correct.
Do you remember their names?
Officer Sarif and Officer Mulvaney.
Okay. Their cruiser was there. You said that an engine was still there.
Correct.
And was there another ambulance there, or the other ambulance had already left the scene? They'd cleared.
They had already transported to the hospital.
Remind me, you were in ambulance two?
Two. I was ambulance 2.
Got it. You parked behind the SUV where you ultimately made contact with Miss Reed, correct?
I think it was more in front of the SUV because the way the SUV was parked.
Got it. Got out of the ambulance, ultimately made contact with Miss Reed through the passenger door.
Correct.
Had a short conversation with her there.
I did.
You said it was maybe 5 to 8 minutes.
More like 5 minutes because of the weather conditions.
Okay, nothing of great consequence. I'm guessing just an initial, I think you called it sort of a triage assessment.
Well, it was more of just introducing myself and asking her how she was doing.
Got it. And then there was one other person in the cab of the vehicle as well.
There was.
Female, male.
Female.
So there are 2 females, one Miss Reed, one another female. Did you see any other civilian females out there?
I didn't see.
Okay,
But
so at least where you were, the contact that you had with Miss Reed and this other female, there was just 2 of them, not a third one.
from what I saw, correct.
Did you get the other female's name?
I know at the time I did not.
Okay. By the way, have you since gotten her name?
Based on a conversation Firefighter Whitley and Miss Reed had back in the ambulance.
Got it. Okay. And who is that other person?
Miss Carrie Roberts.
Okay. When you first observed Miss Reed, did you note whether or not there was anything unusual about her physical appearance, meaning anything on her?
She did, yes.
Describe that to the jurors, please.
She had some blood around her mouth, her neck area.
At that point, were you concerned about, obviously you're concerned mainly about her safety and getting her safely to the hospital, correct?
That's correct.
Were you worried that that might be her blood?
Well, she had said that she had given CPR to her husband.
Okay, you jumped a question ahead. I was going to say, did she tell you that it was in fact not her blood?
She did, so that kind of, in a way, ruled it out.
Okay.
No injury for me.
And you didn't indicate, you didn't notice anything about her that looked like she was physically injured, or physically in harm?
I did not.
Okay. She indicated that she had given CPR, mouth-to-mouth attempts at mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
She did.
And that would account for the blood on her face and in her hair and on her neck.
That's what she told me.
Okay. And based on your observations of her, you didn't have any reason to quarrel with that.
Correct.
Okay. You indicated that her tone was somewhat rapid and repetitive. Is that right?
It fluctuated. So at times it was, yes.
Did it appear to you at that time that she had gone through a pretty significant trauma as best you were trained at the time?
Objection.
A little bit more of a foundation. I'll give it to you.
Sure.
He needs
Have you
foundation.
ever,
Nobody else
in your
does.
course of training, seen individuals who have gone through some sort of a traumatic event?
Frequently.
Frequently.
Everyone's different though.
Understood. Obviously, everybody's got their own personalities and the way of dealing with those things, right?
Sure.
Have you been able to, through your training, assess whether, at least in your belief, your observations, if someone has gone through a relatively traumatic event, as opposed to just someone whistling down the sidewalk?
Yeah.
Okay. Did it appear at that time when you're interacting with Ms. Reed that she was showing the signs consistent of having gone through a trauma?
At the time, yes.
Okay. So hence the rapid speech, the repetitive speech, things of that nature.
Correct. For her. For the defendant, some people don't have rapid, repetitive
Understood.
speech.
I'm just talking about your observations of her at that time.
Yes, yes, sir.
Her
Did they
demeanor-
re-traumatize her by bringing her back to the scene? Somebody just said that in chat. I thought that was a great question. Thank you, 18 Wheels of Outreach, for gifting 5. You're awesome, as always.
It's consistent with having gone through a significant trauma.
For the situation, sure. Yes.
Okay. You said that she went from calmness to agitation. The agitation you accounted for being, I don't necessarily want to go to the hospital. I don't want to be sectioned, correct?
She felt like she didn't need to. It wasn't, she wasn't going to act on her comments about wanting to harm herself.
You called it, I think in a report, it's SI, suicidal ideation.
Correct.
That's obviously of great concern to you and your partners when you're assessing a patient, correct?
That's right.
You don't want to leave someone on their own if they're going to self-harm, correct?
That's correct.
You pretty quickly assessed, I'm guessing, Firefighter BECKER, that she was not, in fact, in the position to self-harm, that I think you said that the statements that she originally made, if John dies, I don't want to live, were not necessarily at the level of actual suicidal ideation. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, at the time I believed her because of the information we got and what she went through.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand your answer.
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Of course. It's probably my fault. At the time that you assessed her, even though she had made some comments about if John doesn't live, I don't want to live either, you did not elevate that to the level of her being suicidal at that moment.
So I couldn't rule it out, but
Okay.
I didn't think it was a huge threat at the time.
Understood.
But
That's
you
what I was trying to get at.
couldn't rule it out, so that's why we had to take her to the hospital.
Understood. I mean, you had a Section 12. You had to take her irrespective of what you
Yeah,
ruled in or out, right?
involuntary.
Okay. Firefighter Whitley was with you in the back of the ambulance the entire time you were with Miss Reed, correct?
Not the entire time. He was before we started transporting. He was kind of in and out, trying to find more of, talking to the police officers, find more of a story of, what happened,
Okay.
why we're taking the defendant on a Section 12.
Once you and Miss Reed were in the back of the ambulance, Firefighter Whitley then joined you in the back of the ambulance?
He did.
How much time lapsed?
It was a couple minutes at the most.
Okay, so it wasn't a lengthy amount of time.
It wasn't lengthy.
And he was with you during the transport, along with Miss Reed, for the whole transport back to Good Sam.
It's a good, yes,
And you said on direct examination, I think your phrase was, all in all, she was cooperative with us.
for the majority of the transport, yes.
Okay. Never became combative, never got physical, nothing like that.
No,
She did refer to Mr. O'Keefe as her husband or her spouse.
that's correct.
You're aware of HIPAA rules, obviously. You're in the medical field, correct?
Correct.
You're aware at the time that HIPAA rules would demand or dictate that unless you're a spouse or
I knew
a
it.
parent or a child, there's certain rules against getting or providing information to someone who isn't one of those close family members, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You previously indicated on direct examination that, I think your words were, that Ms. Reed indicated that her last conversation she had with her husband was an argument, correct?
Correct.
You've previously testified about that statement in other particulars, right? Other hearings.
I have.
You're paraphrasing. You didn't write down what she said about her previous interactions with Mr. O'Keefe, and you didn't record those on a tape recorder, correct?
I wrote down in my report that she said she had an argument.
Right. You didn't write them down at the time. That was a bad question on my part. You weren't taking notes as she was speaking.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, it's kind of for every call, we jot down notes on a notepad, just
Okay.
so, when we give the staff a report, we can read off it.
Do you have those notes?
I don't.
Okay. Do you think you took notes or no?
I gotta, to be honest, I'm not sure. I could have been typing them on the computer. That's what we typed the report on
Okay.
at the time.
Do you have an independent recollection of taking notes, either handwritten or on a computer, as you sit here right now?
I couldn't tell you if I did one or the other. Sometimes
Okay.
I write on the computer, sometimes I don't.
Or you might not have written anything down, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So in any event, you weren't taking down, even if you were taking notes, you weren't taking down verbatim quotes of what she was saying. You were paraphrasing the information that was coming to you, correct?
That's correct.
You had previously said or testified that the last time, let me rephrase that just a little bit. You previously indicated in recounting what it was that Miss Reed actually said to you was something along the lines of she was upset because her last words to him were because of her last words to him being in anger.
I object.
I'm going to allow the question.
Wow.
Is that correct?
Well, I probably phrased it a little wrong. wrongly. The last words, it was the last conversation.
Okay, that wasn't my question. My question is a simple one. In a previous hearing, did you use the phrase "her last words to him"?
Yes,
were
I did.
any?
I did.
And that
Oh,
was
he
at a
studied
hearing
his
where you're under
testimony.
oath, just like you are now, correct?
Correct.
That was a little closer in time than we are now. It was maybe a year ago, correct?
Correct.
Actually, my mistake. It was about 2.5 years ago. It was a grand jury, correct?
Grand jury, yes.
Okay. And the phrase that you used was, and I want to concentrate on that for just a quick second, Firefighter Becker.
Sure.
The phrase that you used at that time was that she said, quote, like her last words to him. She was upset about her, quote, last words to him. Is that right?
I object.
All right, can I see counsel at sidebar, please?
It sounds like he studied his grand jury testimony, but he did testify that she was upset about her last words to him. Karen goes up to sidebar because she made a motion for accommodations for headphones, so she didn't have to go up to every sidebar, but it was denied. She's very involved in her defense. Mrs. O'Keefe is back today, sitting next to Paul. With two girls behind them, laughing.
May I continue, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. When you were recounting the conversation that Ms. Reed indicated that she was upset about, you also indicated, in addition to using the phrase her last words to him, you also said that it was earlier in the night, correct? They had an argument earlier in the night.
I don't recall.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Let's go to the transcript, shall we? We're a little tiny bit behind, so we will scooch forward.
Take a look at the top paragraph, very, very small print. Let me know when you've refreshed your recollection.
Yes.
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
Well done, Becky's Blue-Eyed Paranormal. Can you hear all that squeaking? The karma bus is coming.
Indicated that when she was describing the argument that you testified to on direct, it was about an argument that was, quote, earlier in the night.
Earlier in the night, correct.
Okay. And then you recounted that statement, that same statement in the grand jury later on as at least including, quote, her last words. Is that right?
Her last words.
You were talking about an argument that they had, and then she was upset, and you were paraphrasing her. And one of the things that you paraphrased was, in fact, your statement was she was upset that was like her last words to him, correct?
She said that.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Were you also made aware, did she tell you that her last words to him were in voicemails? Did she say that?
She didn't give any details.
Did you ask her, what were your last words to him?
I did not.
Did she ever say whether or not she believed he ever received her last words to him?
There's no other details than there was no other details other than what she said.
Okay. But she did, when she was having this conversation with you about her last words to him, she did actually take out her phone and show you a bunch of missed calls to him at the same time, didn't she?
She tried to, yes.
Okay. In your mind, did you put two and two together that what she was actually talking about were the missed calls and her being upset about her last words to him, being very angry on those missed calls, those voicemails? Did you put those two things together?
I didn't.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Brennan?
Of course, you can't just let it be.
So when Ms. Reed told you that she was sad because her last conversation, or her last thing that she had said to him was an argument, did she ever suggest that was in a voicemail?
Objection.
Did she ever suggest it was in a voicemail?
She did not.
Did she ever suggest that she didn't actually speak to him, but instead it was some type of message?
Objection.
Did she ever suggest that?
She did not.
In fact, you wrote a report saying that there was an argument earlier in the night, didn't you?
Suggest.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
You got to approach because suggest is not proper. Did you hear her say that? Okay. It's not hearsay because it's a statement by the defendant, but did she suggest to you like what? Like in her body language? Like it's an improper question. She showed him the phone. But the judge doesn't sustain any of Brennan's objections and now they're going back. So hang on. Let's hear those two improper questions. And this in Massachusetts, or in actually not just Massachusetts, in this judge's courtroom, she has ruled that she will not allow the attorneys to state grounds for objections. She does not allow it.
Thing that she had said to him was an conversation. So when Miss Reed told you that she was sad because her last conversation, her last thing that she had said to him was an argument, did she ever suggest that was in a voicemail?
Objection.
Did she ever suggest it was in a voicemail?
She did not.
Did she ever suggest that she didn't actually speak to him, but instead it was some type of message?
Objection.
Did she ever suggest that?
She did not.
In fact, you wrote a report saying that there was an argument earlier in the night, didn't you?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
You
May we
then
approach? May we
were
approach?
interviewed, weren't
No.
you? You
Yes.
interviewed on February 14th, 2022,
Yes.
and you referred to the fact that she told you there was an argument earlier in the night,
Argument early in the night.
and she was telling you this when you were speaking to her that morning.
Correct. Around 6 a.m.
Correct.
Yes.
And earlier in the night, do you know if she was referring to 12:30
I did not know.
or 12:15
No,
or midnight?
I didn't know the time.
So his answer is he doesn't know.
You testified in the grand jury, and Attorney Jackson just asked you some questions about part of the statement you made to the grand jury when he said, like her last words. Would you like to put that in context of the whole statement you made? Do you remember
Her last words.
Do you remember the entire statement that you made in the grand jury about the statement that was made to you?
I'd have to.
May I approach?
Yes.
This is page 81, lines 1 through 4. Please read it to yourself.
Right here, sir.
1 through 4, please.
He did ask for a sidebar. I guess she rejected him because we can't see his face. But the risk that you run by calling a sidebar on everything is that you piss off the jury. But at this point,
Yes.
but it's a good point, Sharon.
Now, when you made that statement you were asked about in the grand jury, you didn't just say, like her last words, did you?
No.
You explained your memory to the grand jury?
Objection.
Ask him what he told the grand jury.
Okay. The grand jury, do you know it was on April 21st, 2022?
Yes.
Okay. And did you tell the grand jury? So she
Objection.
So I'm going to see counsel at sidebar for a second.
Please, for the love of the traveling Mary. And here's the thing. Carrie Roberts lied to the grand jury when she told them that she heard Jennifer McCabe asking Karen, she heard Karen tell Jennifer McCabe to Google hypothermia. Well, she said, I heard her say to Google how long hypothermia. She lied to the grand jury about that. If this man also told some untruths to the grand jury, this entire indictment is bogus.
Yes.
God save us from the
I'm
Commonwealth.
showing you that statement that you made that includes the last words, but there's more to the statement, isn't there?
She was upset.
I'd like you to read
Oh, okay,
your
sorry.
entire
Sure.
statement, 1 through 5. You can read it out loud.
So she was also she was upset also because she said they had, the last time they had talked, she had gotten into an argument. So she was upset that that was like her last words to him.
The last time they had talked.
And so when you were speaking about her last word to him, were you referring to the argument?
Correct.
You testified again regarding this issue, didn't you, in May 3rd, 2024?
Correct.
That'll be the last trial.
And at that point, did you think or believe that the conversation she was relating to you was about a voicemail?
Objection.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
It's not what he thought or believed.
Did you use the word again on May 3rd, 2024, argument?
Objection.
I'm going to allow this.
I used argument.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Can I ask you to read your prior statement on page 10, lines 9 through 13?
Objection.
I'm going to see you at sidebar again and bring these documents, please. Bring all of it.
He's like trying to impeach his own witness. Where are we? Where are we? Why are we going back to his prior testimony if there's no question. He hasn't shown that he doesn't remember what he said. What is going on here? Happy birthday, Janet Reed. Today's her 75th birthday. Anybody who would like to donate to the Karen Reed Defense Fund, it's pinned in the chat. If you'd like to donate $7.50 for Janet Reed's 75th birthday, that would be really awesome of you. The fact that she's sitting here on her 75th birthday watching this sham persecution of her daughter for the second time 1 year later, when John O'Keefe was not hit by a car and a car did not hit John O'Keefe, is horrific, and you should be outraged. I am outraged, and you should be too. This is not how our justice system is supposed to work. Ethical prosecutors are supposed to look for the truth, not just a conviction. Ethical law enforcement are supposed to conduct investigations with integrity, especially, but not limited to, the murder of one of their own.
May I?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Sir, when you wrote the report of your notes to put in your report, do you remember the word argument?
I did.
Do you remember her actually saying the word argument?
I did.
Do you remember her ever saying any word about voice messages?
I did not.
You said that there was somebody in the front seat of the car with the defendant,
It was.
and you later learned from the defendant it was a person by the name of Kerry Roberts.
Correct.
Can you share with us the context? How did you learn that?
The defendant and my partner, firefighter Whitley, had a conversation.
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
So
You're gonna allow him to-
the defendant
What's the objection?
brought up how if her husband had died at the time, she didn't know how she was going to take care of his kids.
Objection.
I'm going to allow this.
And
Wait, this is a conversation that he overheard, and he's allowed to testify to this. I'm going to I'm going to rewind this again because I need to. It strains my credulity, but I'm going to need to listen again. This is something that Whitley should have testified to if Whitley was having the conversation with her. Am I in an alternate universe right now? Am I? Okay, I'm going to take this back again. A little bit, just a scooch. Because Brennan can do whatever he wants, and the defense gets nothing. They're hamstrung.
Can you share with us the context? How did you learn that?
the defendant and my partner, firefighter Whitley, had a conversation.
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
So the defendant brought up how if her husband had died at the time, she didn't know how she was going to take care of his kids.
Objection.
I'm going to allow this.
And firefighter Whitley
We're on the dark side of the
mentioned
moon.
that she had like a strong support system. You know, all the friends are on Canton, and
objection, Your Honor, and reproach.
Please. Even he knows he's not supposed, even the witness knows he's not supposed to be saying it. He wants to get into her support system because Whitley already testified to this. Whitley said, oh, well, don't worry. He said he was telling her all these stories about people who have survived from hypothermia after falling in frozen lakes, and that she'll be fine because she's got a good support system. And Karen said to him, oh, do you know Carrie Roberts? And Whitley said, why, yes, of course I do. He didn't say how he did, but they lived around the corner from each other, and Carrie would call him to bring the fire truck to the block party and such. And she said, oh, if you know Carrie Roberts, then you would know that that's not true, meaning that she's not a good support system, and she's not. We've all seen that. We've seen her testify on the stand. We've heard her yelling at Karen to shut up and get off of him when they were at the scene. We know now that she lied to the state grand jury about the Google search, about hearing Karen tell Jen McCabe to Google hypothermia. We know that they made a timeline. Why do innocent witnesses need to make timelines? Ask yourself that question.
When you spoke to the defendant and she shared with you that her last words with her husband were an argument, why didn't you ask for more detail about that?
I didn't feel it was at the time we went about the call as that we didn't think we would be witnesses in a murder trial. We were there to support Karen and ultimately get to the hospital safely.
He seems like he's a little teary-eyed. He looks like he's about to cry. I think he's crying. Hold on, I think he's crying. I feel bad for him. He does not want to throw Karen under the bus. He's like, why are you asking me these questions? We did not think we'd be testifying at a murder trial because there was no evidence of a murder. There was no evidence of a car accident. We were dealing with a woman who just lost who we thought was her husband, and she was traumatized and in shock. And now he understands that Brennan is trying to make him say mean and terrible things about her. The world is watching and nobody seems to care. Brennan is evil. He's evil. I hate that man. I hate that man. Just like Big Case Mike said about Karen Reed on Court TV many, many times. I hate that woman. I hate her. I detest her. This man, Hank Brennan, is showing you who he really is. This man, Hank Brennan, is showing you why the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office had to go out and get a hired gun to re-persecute Karen Reed, despite the fact that they had zero conflict of interest and that they've already paid him what I now believe is north of $250,000, despite the fact that they have more than 50 attorneys on staff inside of the office. This is outrageous. This is disgusting. You should be outraged, and you are watching something historical here, because if you did not think that corruption could happen at the highest levels, I hope you are at least beginning to think about it. He's crying. He made his own witness cry. It's disgusting. I'm just rewinding it a scooch.
At the time, we went about the call as that we didn't, think we would be witnesses in a murder trial. We were there to support Karen and ultimately get to the hospital safely.
And you were asked about trauma, and you said that you observed that the person may be in trauma, Ms. Reed.
A traumatic event,
Traumatic event.
Right.
Do you have any idea what caused that traumatic event?
I did not.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Anything?
Very briefly, you indicated that you were asked on redirect examination by Mr. Brennan whether earlier in the night could have been 12 or 12:15 a.m., correct?
That's what he asked, yes.
And earlier in the night could have been 6 o'clock p.m.
Early in the night, yeah, correct.
Could have been 5 o'clock p.m.
Could have been.
Could have been 7 o'clock p.m.
Sure.
Okay. You were also asked whether or not Ms. Reed actually specifically mentioned voicemails when she talked about those last words. And you said she didn't,
That I remember, correct.
but she did show you her phone.
She tried to.
And she did show you a bunch of missed calls to John O'Keefe, correct?
I wasn't going to look through her phone. I don't know who she called.
when she said about the argument, she said those were the last words, the argument, right?
That's correct.
Sustained. All right.
Move to strike.
Disregard that last statement. All right, you are all set.
You are
All right.
all
Thank you.
set.
Yes.
Is this a good place to stop for the day?
It's a good time to
Court
dismiss the
pleases,
charges.
yes.
How about that?
Jurors, we could do 6 minutes, but I think we'll just, this is probably a good place to stop.
6 minutes. She can only do
I
6.
understand it, folks. We're on schedule, right where we thought we would be. We're going to release you for today. Now, when I told you this morning, and I've told you other times too, that when you're out in that room waiting for us, we're in here getting work done to make things more efficient for the trial, especially a trial this long. We've decided that we're going to spend Monday afternoon again trying to streamline this trial and deal with issues that we have to deal with. So Monday for you will be a half a day.
A half a
Right? So
day.
I just wanted to tell you that before you left today. Please, again, those 3 cautions, do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, please disregard it, let us know. And I guess the 4th caution is the same as I've been saying. Please be very careful with your social media. All right?
Please be very
Have a good
careful with your
weekend. We'll
social
see you
media.
Monday morning.
All rise for the point, please.
Because
And
the
I'd like
mob,
to see counsel at sidebar, please.
the mob is watching you, jury. Please be very careful with your social media because the mob is watching and we don't want to have to kick you off. And don't go to the American Legion Hall where apparently there's cameras that will record you talking about your personal life. Maybe. We're not even really sure if that's true because that could get you kicked off the jury too. Imagine they have other things to discuss besides what's happening at sidebar. And apparently Monday's a half a day for the jury. I think it's in the morning. And then I think Monday afternoon is the ARCA voir dire, yeah? We'll find out more as we get back. I don't know who that man was that just walked back. Who was that guy that just walked back? Was he up there? Is he an attorney for a witness? What? Who dat? Who dat? He walks up. Anybody know who dat? And then he walks back. I don't know. We're a little bit behind, so we're going to FF. Yeah, the Commonwealth was only, they were told it was only going to cost, that it was only going to cost $75,000 to hire Hank Brennan. He blew through that pretty quickly because they also hired his paralegal, and there was a recent filing where it's been made public that he's been paid something like $234,000 so far, and that was pre-trial. So imagine what his trial bill is going to be. It's funny when I fast forward, all those court officers are jumping around in the background. Are we all set? I don't know. It's back to the fan. I'll leave the fan up a few minutes. Yeah, I just think it's go to the Cape early Friday. Got to get the cottage ready. Got to get the cottage ready, everyone. Leave that on in case they come back. Wow, just wow. Just when you thought it couldn't get any more crazy, it does. I did see this. Somebody sent me this. Misadventurous Book Mouse says, someone tweeted that Kerry started the day on Good Morning America and ended it on TMZ. Yep. We looked at the TMZ article earlier. It's great. Sons 107 says school vacation week here in Massachusetts this week. My daughter is here at work with me. Oh, it's bring your daughter to work day. Hi, Remy. Hey, Remy. What up, girl? Thanks for watching. Love you. Your mom's awesome. Team Wicked Smart. Mel, do you think the smaller brain injuries are better explained by John being kicked in the head by the jackbooted thugs rather than just punched? I don't know. I'm sure the brain doctor can testify about that. We'll see. I don't know. Are they kickers? I don't know. Well, that's it.
Good morning.
That's it for the day. Let's get to the questions. Wow, just wow. Seriously, I am the hot plumber. Oh my God, I love when you guys change your names. I love it. I'm going to remodulate my volume back to normal. So adjust your own volume, please. 3, 2, 1. I am the hot plumber. You guys and your name changes crack me up every single day, and I love you for it. Brennan's missing methodologies. Says, happy birthday, Janet. Thank you, Mel, for covering this case. Love your commentary. Thank you. The defense fund is pinned in the chat. If anybody would like to leave Janet Reed $7.50 for her as a donation to Karen's defense fund for her 75th birthday, that would be amazing. Can the jury request new taillight to tamper with? I think that's rhetorical. But thank you, Codeman 727. CSI Junkie says the leaf blower to collect evidence would be worst. Yes, thanks on top for all the super stickers you sent today. Did you see the new ARCA court filing from Bev? Thanks, Kelly. We went over that, I think, 2 days ago at the end of the stream. Yeah, she wants everything about everything. Unless there's something newer than that. We went over that like 2 days ago. Kelly, Lally, get your advert boring. Yeah, it's the death of the adverb with Adam Lally. Too cute by half. Walked away for a minute, shocked to hear Lally's voice. Yeah, he's back. He's back. Welcome, Carmel. For those of you who don't know, we have a Spotify playlist. It's a mixtape, and it is below it's in the show notes. Thank you, Dom, for your super sticker. Hello, passionate Melanie's anger Cupid. Lollipop. Lolliflop. The Goodmans are here. They give us a membership. Thank you so much. Carmel is sending thoughts to Karen and her family. Yeah, some prayer hands in the chat would be nice because, again, another half day. She told the judge told this jury that they were going to do full days every day, 9 to 4. And no, she lied to them. They went on their little field trip this morning and then came back for a couple of witnesses this afternoon, which we will recap at the end of these questions. Shay Benet, thanks for joining. I think you're going to like it here. Coach, can you answer that? Canoni from Canada says, my mother and I are here every day. Karen's case is gaining traction in Canadian news. So proud. That's awesome. Welcome, Canadians. Happy birthday, Mrs. Reed. Sugar Magnolia. Oh, blossoms blooming. It's all empty, and I don't care. You know I'm a deadhead. We have emojis for that. Thanks for your 20. So it's flying from Boston to Cancun tomorrow. The whole family will be wearing our free Karen Reed went to Cancun with attorney Melanie little sweatshirts. I'll be listening all week with you on a beach in Mexico. That's awesome. I love that for you and for me. And if anybody comes up to you and talks to you about the Karen Reed case while you're in Cancun, I would love to hear about it. Thank you. 20% off in the merch shop today. Get your merch. The link is below in the show notes. Shay Benet says, Brennan is there today, but Lollipop got his hair cut and Auntie Deb allowed him out of timeout. I think you meant Auntie Bev, but I'll allow it because we love Auntie Deb as well. Morgie, thank you for gifting 5 memberships. And Susie McDonald, you too, for gifting 5. There's at least 15 gifted memberships today. So there's like at least 15 new members. Welcome. Enjoy the emojis the special emojis that we have for this trial. Matt Bond is here from Australia. It's been a while. Hey, Matt, all her meds will affect her too. Yes. With regard to the blood alcohol content, a shot of vodka to me is equal to tequila to most, but it's impossible for me to have a hangover. I burn it fast. Yep. BC says Attorney Little, meaning Eliza Little, not me, is using Dr. Fowler's own words to describe the difference between whole versus serum testing is so clever. Her tempo is so beneficial here. Yes, I agree. This is an earlier chat from 11:51 a.m. However, the train went off the tracks, in my opinion, when the judge allowed him to just keep talking on cross. And I think it was all lost in the Michigas. And I think what should have happened is it should have been brought back around and clarified at the end. And I don't know that it was. I need to go back and watch it because it was a big mess, in my opinion. And I don't think that the proper information really got out about the difference between a serum conversion and a plasma conversion and a whole blood conversion and why it's not accurate and why they're not accredited and why this should not be used in court. You let me know what you think in the chat and in the comments below. Terry says Massachusetts has a statute that the defendant must consent to blood draw used for BAC, even if drawn at hospital for other purposes. Massachusetts SJC clarified this. Well, I don't know when they clarified it, but I don't know that she consented to it. I don't know. Maybe the ER doctor will testify to that. You guys can refresh my recollection. because I don't know. Yeah, all I remember is that their test, when he says their test showed higher alcohol than the whole blood, right? The serum. Nobody followed it, right? It wasn't just me. Thank you, Terry. Loudmouth says if John was still sobering up around 5:30 p.m., that means he shouldn't have been driving the kids to the doctor and practice earlier in the day. Yes, rules for thee, but not for me. Thank you, Loudmouse, for your 10. Hank Spector speculation. She's letting him talk because Karen's disease directly affects the accuracy of this testing. Yes, that was when we were talking about Dr. Fowler, but no, the judge was letting him talk, not Ms. Little. Ms. Little tried to shut him down, tried to get it out of him that the fact that she had anemia and MS would skew the results. But I just don't think it was clarified in the end. I just don't think it was. That was an earlier chat too, so that might have been before the end of the mess. Paula says, that'll learn. Bev let him go. Ha ha. No, I mean, I don't think it was good for the defense, is what I'm saying. You can tell me if you think I'm wrong. I'll allow it. Dennis says, Wranglers and Jezebels. Ha ha ha. Yep. If The Handmaid's Tale, if you know, Dennis. And they do film the Handmaid's Tale in Canada, and you're from Canada. So there's that. Passion Art to Melanie's Anger Cupid. Ouch, this hurts too much. Been bitten by the snark, a snark bite, if you know, you know. What's wrong with these two men for the Commonwealth? What's wrong with these men for the Commonwealth? Melanie, just picture this quack on his WC explaining to himself this BS. Thank you for your super chat. Bobby Leslie Slice and Dice, now open for business, says MS equals, I think you mean to say elevated lactic acid levels equals false positives. That's where she's going with this. Boom. I think that was where she was going with it, but I do not think that it was clear. It wasn't clear to me. And I have to admit, I was distracted by the chat and other things and my outrage. However, it was not clear to me. And the jury's taking notes, and I don't know if it was clear to them. And I cross-examine witnesses all the time, experts. And I know a lot about medicine because of my work as a plaintiff's attorney. Hang on one second. I'm parched. Mary says, Mary Coppola, I'm curious to see if she allows the defense when Dr. Russell is on the stand to elaborate in her answers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Defense needs to tell her to end her answers with, I can explain further. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Agreed. Anne says, I don't think it was a bad cross. She let the judge show her bias and she allowed the doctor to look clueless and confused. He kept talking. And so the focus of his testimony was not there. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it, but thank you. And Mike Nichols says, I have the best commentary and I will allow it. Thank you for your super chat. Grace says he's not helping the prosecution. He said serum leads to higher BAC than whole blood. Yeah, but it was lost in the Michigas of the muddy waters. The muddy waters came, I think, after you sent that, Grace, so you can let me know what you think. Good Citizen says, wearing my Come For Me in the Comments shirt. I wish, oh, that's awesome. I wish they pushed for the ETOH results not to be admissible. They did. They made a motion in limine to exclude them. It was denied, per usual. Shea Breezy, I emailed you 2 news articles regarding 2 MSP forensic lab technicians who were fired for submitting fake results because we only hire the best here in Massachusetts. God save the Commonwealth. Thank you, Shea. Thank you. How dare you? It's been here for 9 months and says BAC always shows up in my whole blood. I have MS. Thank you for chiming in. MSP's audit for wayward methodology and process says, wore my pink sweatshirt to the dentist this morning. It's 84 degrees in Palm Beach right now. Wow, I'm jealous. Had to represent Free Karen Reed in my mail. That's amazing. Thank you. Yes, Kai Y Mai. Thank you, Grace. She put her pronunciation in there yesterday. Thanks for another super chat, Grace. I appreciate you. Strong Legs 1971 coming in here with a hot 50. Thank you so much for your generosity. Says, what, if any, are the legitimate reasons the Commonwealth has allowed a pathologist to explain the process of a phlebotomist, but the defense has denied a retired professional law enforcement investigator to explain the process of a proper investigation? Well, the judge denied Michael Easter, the FBI expert on procedure and methodology, from testifying because in Judge Bev's or Lady McBev or Kim is able to understand proper police procedure, and it should be within the common knowledge of the jury, and that the defense can just cross-examine the law enforcement witnesses to get at how bad the investigation was, which I think is ridiculous. Because do you think that these investigators are really going to admit that they did a piss poor investigation? I don't think so. Thank you so much, Strong Leg 1971, for your super generous 50. How dare you said, I thought he said he didn't know about the study. What the duck? I have to go back and rewatch that testimony because it was all over the place. And if we are all confused, you can bet your ass the jury was confused. Holly Johnson, did you notice he said they checked to see if the scene is safe? Why on earth would they not check inside the house? Great question. So it was not a secured scene. No, it was not a secured scene. It was left unsecured, in fact, for, 10 or 12 hours until the CERT team got there and started finding pieces of taillight after Karen Reed's car was already back in the Canton PD Sallyport, after the Canton PD was already recused from the investigation because of a conflict of interest, because Brian Albert's brother, Kevin Albert, is a Canton cop. And their other brother, Chris, town selectman, not at the time, but in April of 2023, he was elected to the board. They're the boss of the Canton PD. So see how incestuous this whole town is? Grace says, regarding Bev's bias, she's been very put off by anything federal, ARCA, FBI, etc. Could it be because of the FBI's interest in DA Marcy, aka her mom's old boss? Don't know. Don't know. Anything's possible. Thanks, Grace. Nina said, I'd love to have Sergio Denaro on your channel. Any chance? He has a channel called Truth Revealed. I do like him a lot. We have chatted over email. However, this trial is very time consuming and single thread. And when I'm on here 8 hours a day, I don't always have a chance to have guests. Maybe on an off day, I can't promise anything, but I do like him and I like him a lot. And thank you, Nina, for suggesting. Laura says, biggest pet peeve / Bev peeve. Oh, there's so many, Laura. I can't even list them. But Laura's is when she chimes in and asks the witness the question after an objection. Yes. Can you answer that? Can you answer that? She's supposed to be deciding whether the objection is valid. She's not supposed to let the witness determine whether or not the legal basis for the objection is valid. It's wild. I've never seen anything like it. I didn't say your name in your daughter's super chat, Pupatrocta. Pupatrocta. Sorry, Pupatrocta. I didn't know if Pupatrocta was her name, your name, if she was making fun of Pupatrocta. I didn't know, but I see you, Pupatrocta. You're here and you're the mother of the daughter who gave the super chat earlier. So shout out to you. Appreciate you. Laura says, I swear it throws off the defense's whole flow. I don't know if it throws off their throw. I think they're too good. They're too on their game for that. But I think they just get mad, and they should. They should be mad because it's not up to the witness to determine whether or not the legal basis for an objection is proper. It's insane. Yeah, a lot of people think that Hank Brennan will be paid north of $1 million. Could be. Bella Brat, how differently do you think this would have gone had they not sectioned her? And I don't understand how Bev agrees that a dog trainer bite impressions are junk science. Well, she does not think they're junk science. But she lets the extrapolation guy drone on. Well, he's not talking about the extrapolation, this guy. There's going to be another guy who's going to come in and do that. This is just the guy talking about the lab and the procedures in Good Sam. They sectioned her, I think, because her father called and asked them to. Or her mother, her father, one of her parents did. Had they not sectioned her, they wouldn't have her blood. Had they really thought that when she returned to the scene and was still drunk and screaming, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, you can bet they would have hauled her in and cuffed her. Crafty councilwoman, EMT and medics always put important comments that could help the medical staff in quotations. If she said this, it should have been in quotations. Serious eye roll. Yep. Mama of 7 monsters. Wow. You have 7? How many sets of twins? Says, thank you, Melanie. My newborn granddaughter has demanded we have to listen to your voice to take a nice nap on top of Gammy. She's number 15. Congratulations. 15 grandchildren. You're blessed. Lauren Elizabeth, thanks for becoming a member. Rebecca Jones from Canada. In law enforcement cadet training, one of the major things stressed over and over how important notes are and jotting down all utterances verbatim, and absolutely bring your notebook to court. Fire department should get similar training. Yes. Yes, they should. If you didn't document it, it didn't happen. That's what nurses are taught to. But here in the land of the lost, where Chaka is our mascot, it just doesn't. But I hear what you're saying. Barbara Brady is a paramedic. She says if she said she hit him in front of them, they would have wrote that in the chief complaints section of the ambulance report. Yes, they would have. They should have. They could have, but they didn't, because that story didn't surface until Katie McLaughlin was interviewed at Canton PD, like 2 days later, maybe. I don't remember the exact date of Katie McLaughlin's interview, or McLaughlin. I'm not sure how she pronounces it. But that interview was set up by Kevin Albert, brother of Brian Albert, even though they were conflicted, remember. Katie McLaughlin, the firefighter EMT, went to high school with a girl named Caitlin Albert. She tried to deny it on the stand last time, first trial, when she was confronted with some Facebook photos and lots of photos that internet sleuths sent in about her close relationship with Caitlin Albert, the daughter of Brian Albert. I heard she's just returned to work. I don't like to gossip about people, but they've been distancing themselves from mentioning her, so I don't know if she's going to testify. I'm curious now. Grace said, how do rejected sidebars play in appeals? They did have a sidebar eventually after that. So I don't know that she rejected them from the sidebar. She just didn't call it. She sustained the next objection. But the fact that she does not let them state their grounds for an objection preserves all grounds for appeals. We still have not had the sidebars from the last trial unsealed, and I don't think they will be until after this trial is over. Until there's a resolution, until Karen's acquitted, let's say. Peg Margot, thank you for your super sticker. Chloe Albert's revenge. AJ is like, objection. He's doing my job for me. I want to impeach this guy myself because I'm just better at it. Thank you. Super chat. Trevor Fagan. I'm confused because the Massachusetts rule is judges cannot prohibit reasons for objections, but they aren't required. Well, the confusion continues. We're in the land of confusion. We are in the land of confusion. She's ruled on it. She will not allow it. Somebody sent me a Massachusetts rule also that allows the jurors to ask questions of the witnesses if the judge allows it. I have to go dig that out of my email. It's somewhere in there. I've never seen it done in Massachusetts yet. We've seen it done in Florida a whole bunch. And I think in maybe like one of the Lori Vallow cases, wasn't the jury allowed to ask questions of the witness? So I have to dig that back up. I don't know where Attorney McLaughlin is. She hasn't been there. I don't know. Rebecca Jones says, is it possible that Auntie is purposely making it so AJ objects, hoping AJ pisses off the jury? Anything's possible, Rebecca. I'm not ruling anything out at this stage. Marianne, this is starting to be the norm of our judicial system. Very biased. Yep. Thank you for your super chat. Helena said, I knew it. He's one of the good guys. Yeah, he started to cry. I felt really bad for him in the end. He did not want to hurt Karen. It's a shanda, what is going on here. It is a shanda. His name was Jason Becker. He also testified at the first trial. Vallow in Arizona, the jury did ask questions. Thank you. Mary says, you heard it here first. She's going to be found guilty of manslaughter and due time. I do not have a good feeling about this, but it's obvious on how this trial is going to go. Breaks my heart. Well, listen, we're only on day 4. This is going to be like at least 6 to 8 weeks. I submit to you, Mary, it's going to go even longer than that, at the snail's pace that this is going. Enchiladas, welcome. Thanks for becoming a member. And how many people want to have some enchiladas right now? Did you miss anything jaw-dropping? I'm not going over it. You can rewind. Thanks for your super chat, Munch. Holly Johnson says Jen probably manipulated Peg to suggest a timeline. She needed to start her cover-up for her Google search at 2:27 a.m. far before it was even noticed or in question. Jen's a master manipulator. We talked about this yesterday. I agree. The Twittiot talking point yesterday was that the defense did not even find out about 227 did not exist before April or March of 2023, April of 2023, when the defense found out about it. So therefore, Kerry Roberts did not lie to the grand jury. I'm like, what? I'm sorry, what? Jennifer McCabe, whose husband happens to be in IT, knew what she did. She knew what she Googled, and she had to have a reason for it, maybe, perhaps, in my opinion. So that is a hollow argument. Certainly not a full-throated one. Lola the good dog is here. Hank can't pronounce most words correctly, yet he clings to every word Karen says, thinking it's a murder confession. Isn't it ironic? Yeah, don't you think? A little too ironic. Cynthia, 1880s. Thank you for your 10. I hope the jury saw how dirty Brennan is. I would love to know from someone who's in the courtroom what the facial expressions are. Turtle Boy has new documents dropping today that are big time, he said. Awesome. Thank you, Emily. I'll keep an eye out. Shame on you, Breenut, says Susie McDermott. Thank you, Susie, for your 10. Dennis the Menace, why does Possum stand in front of the jury and witnesses? It's a style, not a great one. Did you see Lally had on like a faux Burberry tie today? And his shark hairdo with the dippity-do. Do you think it's dippity-do or Axe hair gel? I don't know. You decide. AJ's clarified butter. Not every witness is corrupt. Be kind. I agree. I was kind. I liked him a lot. John O'Keefe's head injury is here. I can't watch this trial without you. And I can't watch it without you either. Thank you. Bonnie Scotland. Melanie, how can Bev get away with being very obviously biased? Can anyone stop her? Replace her? No. Bonnie Scotland. Thank you so much for your super chat. People ask this question every single day. No. No one can stop her. Judges have a very wide discretion. They have judicial immunity. And they made a motion to recuse her prior to the first trial, but she denied it because she's the one who heard it. And so there's nothing that can be done at this time. On top, you wouldn't have to find you in the front lawn. Thank you. On top. Me in the front lawn. Becky's Blue-Eyed Paranormal. Mel, good song for Spotify. Mr. Pitiful, the commitments, because the Commonwealth are pitiful. Thank you. The grand jury is so sus, says Slicey Slice. Thanks for being here for 6 months. On top with another super sticker. Grace, I think getting sectioned withdraws consent. I don't know. Mama of 7 monsters, thank you for all your kindness and all you do to explain all of Brennan's BS. And I wonder how many claws Bev has had. Well, I can't put defamatory things up on the screen. I'm an attorney. Andrea Panoni, thank you very much for your $50 super chat. You're super duper generous. Appreciate you so much. Super sticker, I should say, because there was no question attached to that. Kristen, do you think Broke Bev is hurting the defense with bad rulings? Kristen Powell, that's a very broad question. She's hurting the defense in many, 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 many ways. And today, in particular, I don't know how much that hurt the defense, letting that witness drone on and on and on, the Dr. Fowler. Remains to be seen. In the grand scheme of things, after 6 or 8 weeks of this monotony, are they going to remember? The jury going to remember it? I don't know. I'd like to know who's taking notes, who's not taking notes. There are 18, I'm sorry, 9 women and 9 men. Only 12 of them will deliberate. The alternates are not picked until the end when they are put in the bingo drum. Cruella Beville, the jury saw both the doctor and Bev are obvious shills. Alcohol content was obfuscated for now. Thank you. I'm going to be on Court TV tonight on the 9 o'clock hour. So come on over to Court TV and watch me on Vinny's show tonight at 9 o'clock for the 9 o'clock hour. You have to go to courttv.com unless anybody's going to be streaming tonight and they restream it the way I think Blair did it one night. He restreamed it. So I'll be on Court TV tonight at 9. Boston Breezy RN. Karen's attorneys are incredible because I, a civilian, wanted to jump through the screen. Now we allow hearsay? Yes. Double, triple, quadruple hearsay. Mama of 7 monsters became a member. Welcome. Please hit the like button to push the video out. Thank you, Scott Messerschmidt, one of the amazing moderators on this channel. Chap's wifey, could you answer this for my hubby? And if I was a potential juror and I have a urostomy, would I not be selected because of it? Outraged with Proctor. A urostomy. I'm going to have to Google that now. Hold on. Okay, so it's like a colostomy bag, but for urine. No, if you did not have a medical reason to not be there, you would not be not selected. So no, it wouldn't disqualify you unless you said you had a medical condition that you couldn't sit there for long periods of time or whatever. But no, it shouldn't. Would they want you out for cause because you have a similar medical condition? Not really similar, but something maybe similar to Karen. I don't know. I don't know. So no, it wouldn't disqualify you automatically. Thank you, Chaps Wifey, for your super chat. How dare you says, I wonder if Bev is angry because Hank has already earned more than her for this case. Yeah. Probably. Wouldn't you be? How dare you? CSI Junkie emailing per your earlier question. The only thing worse than the sound of a leaf blower is a leaf blower being used to search for evidence. Thank you. Well done. Lisa Johnson became a member. Welcome. And Manj, how does it work when someone commits perjury and it's proven that they did? Well, somebody would have to actually want to prosecute them. So unless she is prosecuted, it's not perjury unless it's indicted as a crime. She technically may have committed perjury. They'd have to indict her for that, and somebody would actually want to have to prosecute her for that. So that's a very complex question. So it can't be proven until a jury would determine that it was guilty. That she was guilty of perjury. She admitted to perjury. She said she misunderstood the question. Will she ever get prosecuted, Carrie Roberts? In Norfolk County? I don't know. Gladys Kravitz is here from Bewitched. She's a curtain twitcher. Says you may have something to cover later today or maybe Monday if court is slow regarding Ada and Sia's post. I'm greatly intrigued. Thanks for everything. Thank you. Somebody pointed that out. I'll have to take a look when I have a spare minute. Liking the stream is a free way to support the channel and show Melanie some appreciation. Thank you, KBT, for putting that in there. Canoni's disproportionate disdain. Hank Brennan referred to spoiler on Lexus before the View this morning. The theory is already changing between no specific stated theory and Commonwealth shenanigans. Yeah. He said pay special attention to the spoiler on the Lexus. Okay. We started to watch that, but then court started, so we had to jump from that into live court. Kaylee C. says Carrie's job on LinkedIn says she's an executive assistant in mental health for Massachusetts State. My theory is she gaslit Karen, talked to Mr. Reed. You mean Mr. O'Keefe? Oh, talked to Mr. Reed, Carrie did, and influenced him to have her sectioned. Also, why nurse let Carrie see John O'Keefe? Well, I don't know. I cannot confirm or deny what Carrie Roberts does for a living, but what I can confirm is that I don't think Mr. Reed could be talked into doing anything by anyone unless he wanted to, because I have met Mr. Reed a couple of times. So thank you. Thank you for your theory and for your super chat. Sweet Lorraine says, was this supposed to be a Hoff day? Yes, I believe it was, because it was supposed to be just the jury view. I don't know. Supposed to be, last minute. Heads will roll by the yeah-yeahs, says Mary. Thank you, Mary, for your suggestion. Lola the good dog, shouldn't this timeline be in evidence? Yeah, nobody's asked for it. I don't know if it's ever been, I don't know if it's ever been turned over. I don't know if it really exists. I don't know if it's on paper. I don't know if it's on a napkin. I don't know if it's on someone's hard drive, soft drive, iCloud, detective file, detective hard drive at the Canton PD. I would love for someone to ask, where is this timeline now? Do you have a copy of it? But so far, nobody's seen it. I've been covering this case for almost a year and a half. Canoni's Baloney, Jadzia, 1969, says, does the defense have a witness they can use to explain about the blood tests? Yes, they do. They have experts coming in, and it's going to be great. Rebecca Jones, thanks for your 5. Getting section does not forego consent. If it can result in criminal charges, it must be arrested and must have a warrant to obtain blood. I don't know, Rebecca. I cannot. I'm a legal channel, so I can't just keep putting up comments where people are, trying to give legal conclusions. But I thank you so much for your super chat from Canada. So I, unless that's specific to Massachusetts law, I cannot say that that is true or not, because I have not researched Massachusetts law today on that. I'm a New York attorney for over 30 years. Here to give you my commentary. The Jodi Arias trial allowed questions by jurors. Thank you, Obi-Wan Kenobi, for your 5. On top, I was referring to the mob antics of the social media so that the jurors don't participate in it, wouldn't want to find any of them in the front yard. Oh, I get what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're laying down now on top. I'm picking it up now. Yeah, the jury should stay away from social media. Ronnie, the juror from the first trial, is out there doing interviews all the time. I think he's going to be on again today somewhere. Crazy. Hope Ronnie's not being attacked. Thank you, Brenda and QG, for your super sticker. And not you. I'm your pro bono bodyguard. No one will ever find you harm. Thank you, on top, for being my bodyguard. God knows I need one. Krista Ray became a member, said Aiden just posted the filings. When did you post that? 1:36. All right. All right, I'll allow it. I do need to do some mommy Ubering though, so I don't really have a whole lot of time, but let's check it out. Hold, please. Talk amongst yourselves for a moment. Well, he didn't really post it. He posted the docket that says that he posted the docket 16 minutes ago. It's just the notes. It's not the actual documents. It says very interesting filing in the Turtle Boy witness intimidation case today. It's been docketed, but the image isn't available yet. You're going to want to read it when it's up. And so, I don't know. It's a letter. Well, no, 425 is today, right? Defendant's motion to impound names from third-party affidavit filed with his third motion to compel required discovery. Defendant's third motion to compel required discovery and an affidavit of a redacted person. And so I don't see that the papers are up, but I see that the picture of the docket is up. Okay. So unless anybody has the papers, there is a chance we could come back later and do it. So thank you, Krista, but it's not the filings. It's just a picture of the docket showing that they were docketed into the thing. Okay. Also, keep in mind that SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States of America, is having a conference today during which one of the things that they are going to discuss is whether or not they are going to hear Karen Reed's issue on double jeopardy. I don't think they'll announce anything, though, until Monday. Bev dated John Adams in high school. Thank you, Melanie. Did you see my Justice Squad poem? Was it emailed to me? I got 700 emails yesterday, so I will keep a lookout for you. Bev dated John Adams in high school. That's a great name. I love it. I love it. And if you're writing poems for the defense team, that is awesome. Monica, is the investigation for real killer going to happen? Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Unless somebody talks and they saw it. The investigation was so bungled from the beginning. There's no evidence left. I mean, we're 3 years post-murder, so I think that ship has sailed unless somebody flips. Can't answer that question right now. Stephanie Flynn, can you imagine Karen Reed not guilty, then Brennan doing all perjury? I don't know what you're trying to say, but if Karen Reed is not guilty, then Brennan is not employed by the Commonwealth. He's just a hired gun right now. And so I think this is his only engagement with regard to the this is his only engagement with regard to the retainer that he's on with Norfolk County DA's office. So it wouldn't be him. It would have to be supposedly a Hoff day. Thank you, David. Supposedly, yes, supposedly, you forgot to say supposedly, David Reese. He's a hired gun, only for this case so far. 8-man. I'm very glad that my wife introduced me to this channel. Well, thank your wife for me, would you? I got all my info about the first trial from her while she was watching along with you. That's amazing. Your wife has very good taste. Not only in you, but also in me. Chap's wifey, thank you for answering. I was just wondering because I had my bladder removed in October, so we were wondering if it would be considered bias. No, that would not be considered bias. I was just thinking if you had a medical condition that would prevent you from sitting for hours at a time, no, it wouldn't be considered bias at all. I mean, you could have had a family member that was killed in a drunk driving accident, and that wouldn't automatically mean that you were biased. It would just, you would have to say that you could be fair. Yeah, so no worries, no worries. Happy to answer. Bev's toots under that robe says, in my opinion, if I were a juror, I would be out on Yannetti's pitch. I would be off on Yannetti's pitch every time he speaks to the jurors. It's really cringe to me. Anyone else's? I adore him. I also understand why he's doing it. LA, New York City. You don't like Yannetti's pitch? The pitch of his voice? Every time it's really cringe to me. Anyone else? No, I enjoy Yannetti very much. I don't know if that's a typo, but thanks for your 20. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's cringe to you or why. So I'm not really clear on your question. Did you mean to say Brennan? I don't know. Rebel, thanks for your super sticker. X Squirrel says, Spotify list bodies drowning, pool and lolly, 3-6 mafia, the temp in the snark tank is mighty fine. Yes, it is. Stick your toe in the water. It's pretty good. Pretty good. JC Cuber, jury's already 100% forgot the doctor's testimony. Already, yeah. Autocorrect change supposedly. Oh, you did try to do it supposedly. Thanks, David. Stephanie, I meant Brennan doing all the cases into perjury. I still not sure, Stephanie Flynn, what you're trying to say. Doing all the cases into perjury? You mean he's getting the witness to admit that they committed perjury? He wouldn't be prosecuting any perjury cases because he's not employed by the Norfolk County DA's office. Still not picking up what you're laying down. Yvette, how many times did the pathology say maybe, sort of, barely, close enough, kinda, a little bit? I don't want him looking for a vein. Yikes. I know. And did you see when he took off his glasses and he put the paper like this close to his face and he was looking for a vein? I mean, not looking for a vein, but trying to read the papers. Yvette, he was trying to read the papers. He couldn't see them. Hit the like button, people, says John. And Ed Wallace, who's a forensics expert on the YouTube channel Duty Ron, and Ed Wallace says, this is not a forensic lab. You are correct, Mel. Law enforcement does a blood draw and brings the blood to the forensic lab for blood alcohol analysis. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Susie, for buying me 5 matcha lattes and for thanking me. Thank you. I thank you so much for that. Let me see. Tina, thank you for buying a matcha latte. She says I'm the best and enjoyable to watch. Thank you so very much. And Anne, thanks for you buying a matcha latte and thanking me for my excellent coverage. I thank you because without all of you watching, I would not have a channel. Without my amazing moderators, I could not run this channel. So thank the mods. Gail says through Venmo, thank you for covering the Karen Reed trials. You're one of my favorite YouTube lawyers. Free Karen Reed. Yes, Gail. Free Karen Reed. That's what we're doing here. We got Karen Reeds to free, don't we? Megan says, happy Friday. Am I an idiot? Other than not being a great look, what does it change that Karen Reed, that Kerry Roberts didn't overhear Karen ask for the Google search? Is there a question about Karen even asking about that? I'm aware of the data that says it was searched overnight. Thanks. Yes, there is absolutely 100% a question about it because the Commonwealth experts are going to say that Jennifer McCabe did not Google Hoslong to Diet Cold at 2:27 a.m., that she really Googles it at 6:23 and 24 a.m., and because she had an open tab, it reverted back to 2:27. There's a lot of controversy about when that Google search was made, Megan, and so Jennifer McCabe has to say, Karen Reed told me to Google hypothermia in the morning when we were praying the Our Father and holding hands in the backseat of a patrol car. And that's why it's important that Kerry Roberts testified that she overheard Karen yell to Jen, Google hypothermia, because it makes the Google search make sense. See? And so, yes, it is a huge point of contention. The fact that Kerry Roberts lied to the grand jury about that, which led to Karen's upgraded charges for second-degree murder, in my opinion, is huge. Only in Canoni's court. Mel, tweeted say it didn't exist until 2024. No, I think it was 2023. But during the grand jury, Kerry testified she heard Karen Reed say Google hypothermia and how long hypothermia. Yes, I know. That's what I'm saying. But we didn't know. The grand jury is secret. We don't know what happened in the grand jury. We're only finding out now because they're being questioned about their grand jury testimony. My point is that the timeline that Kerry and Jen and Mrs. O'Keefe and whoever else participated, Denise, apparently Jennifer's McCabe's sister was the scrivener of that timeline. Jennifer McCabe knew she Googled it. She knew she Googled it and she needed an explanation because by that time she had handed over her phone to law enforcement willingly, allegedly. And then she must have thought, holy duckin' S-balls. I got to explain that Google search. I got to say, Karen told me to Google it in case anybody ever finds it. And so this didn't come out to the public or to the defense team until April or something 2023 but the grand jury was in April of 2022, which even gives me more pause to say the cover story had begun. We've only just begun. Sassy bartender, do you think the feds will ever come in and clean up? I don't know. But you know what I do want to do right now? Speaking of bartenders, I just learned of the passing of one of the greatest bartenders in New York City history, and I want to do a little tribute to him right now. I just have to find it on my Instagram because that's where it was posted. One of the greatest bartenders, if you know, you know. Hang on, because this is kind of hard to do on my laptop because, and I want to ask if any of you knew Patrick Ford. One of the great, it just makes me cry looking at his picture. But anyway, this is Patrick Ford. They also call him Patty. Was a bartender at Smith & Wollensky Grill in New York City for over 35 years. And he had that red phone, and it was a prop phone. And he used to pick up the prop phone and say, "Sir, your car is here." He knew everyone. He knew everyone at Smith & Wollensky's Grill. And if he didn't know your name, it's because it was your first time there. And rest in peace. Rest in peace, Pat Ford. If you know, you know. He was an amazing, the best bartender in New York City, arguably. I don't know if anybody else knows him, but Free Karen Reed knows Patty. You do? Yes, you know his face, Chloe Albert's Revenge. Best. Let me just read what Smith & Wollensky wrote on their caption here. It is with deep sadness that we mourn the passing of one of the most inspirational bartenders to have ever graced the bar, our brother, Pat Ford, who passed away on the weekend. Patty was a Goliath on the bar scene for over 47 years, from Mulligan's Brick Bar in his hometown of Buffalo, where he joined as a bartender at 18, to his 35-year residency at Smith & Wollensky's Grill in New York City. Punch described him as, quote, the sun around which all his patrons orbit, which sums up just how pivotal Ford was in orchestrating the scene in the grill bar at Smith & Wollensky. From the red phone prop to the lean-in style that made you feel like you were the only guest at the bar, everything Pat did was to delight and entertain his guests. His memory was legendary. He knew everyone, and if he didn't know you, it must be your first visit. Pat lived for the joy of the work, and with his passing, the era of the career bartender as a lifelong vocation edges a little closer to its end. There are too many anecdotes and too many gags for this post, but in true Patty style, when a guest asked, "Where's your bathroom?" Ford always replied, "Next to my bedroom." Ye will be missed, Patty Ford. Okay. That got me a little teary-eyed. Okay, back to the chat. Landed Confusion by Jennifer. Oh, David Reese, would you please, for the love of the traveling Mary, look at the playlist before you suggest things? We've got two versions of Landed Confusion on the playlist, not only the Genesis version, but also the Disturbed version. And I mean, if you want to keep paying me $2 to suggest songs, that's great, but check the papers, check the list. Rebecca Jones, Massachusetts 24F, one's rules for obtaining blood as evidence to impaired operation motor vehicle, suspect arrested and refuses draw. I'm in law enforcement, and it's the same here too in Canada. Thank you so very much. But she wasn't arrested at the scene, so I don't know that it applies. I don't know if she signed a consent form. I appreciate you citing the laws for me in Massachusetts, but I just don't know enough about it to give you. I'm going to put the comment up and read it, but I just don't know if it applies here and whether she signed a consent. I just don't know. Passion Art of Melanie's Anger Cupid says, by the way, people of Canton, leaf blowers suck. You heard it here first. I agree. Lou says, will the jurors even understand reasonable doubt? Yes, because the defense is going to have to hammer it home this time, like to hell and back. PTSD healer does a lot of the research, peer-reviewed articles about false memories. This case is loaded with them. Yeah, it is. Were people influenced by their friends, by their timelines, by other things such as like that? I think so. And they're going to have to hammer home on that also in their closing. Closings are going to be super, super, super important in this trial, in my opinion, just one of the super important things. Trisha Angel loves the idea of donations in honor of Mrs. Reed's 75th birthday. Thank you. Michelle, thank you. How do you think the Commonwealth will explain the injuries on John O'Keefe's arm? Oh, I know exactly how they're going to explain it. Did the glass shred through his thick sweatshirt? This is what it did. This is what did it for me, knowing she's innocent. No way the car or glass could have done those injuries. Well, number one, Michelle, the taillight is made of polycarbonate. Someone is at my door, so I just have to hang on 1 second. Hang on. All right, I got to jump. First is that the taillight is made of polycarbonate, not glass. Second is that the Commonwealth is trying to say that his arm shattered the taillight and that it was then cut up and chewed by the taillight. If you look at the pictures of the outside of his clothing, you're going to see puncture marks that clearly line up with dog's teeth. So, I mean, I don't know that the jury's going to buy it, but that's what they're going to try and say. So thanks, Michelle, for tuning in. You guys, I got to go. Bev Toots under that robe. I mean, how he says where his office is when addressing the jury. I also have a crush on the whole defense team. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Thank you, Zazu, for your super sticker. And Charles, thank you for your 10. All right. I love you guys with all of my heart. Make sure you have all the notifications set. I love you with all of my heart. If I don't see you soon, I'm going to die. Make sure you have notifications set. Make sure that you hit the like button, do all the things that YouTube likes. And, you know, I'll be on Court TV tonight at 9. Stay cool, stay kind, stay classy, do all the things. I love you so much. Peace, my friends. Peace.